Welcome back to another FPL deadline stream, this time out of Game Week 31. And we have such a quick turnaround, and with UCL Fantasy, there is another deadline, this time on the Tuesday. But everything you need to know will be covered on this channel for both FPL and also the Champions League. Keep your eyes peeled for that piece of content, or those pieces of content, the videos this weekend and also on Monday, and a deadline stream on the Tuesday as well. So yeah, it should be a blast talking to you for the next couple of hours. I'll answer all your questions and make sure that you're well prepared for the FPL deadline and just everything you need to know. Drop a like if you enjoy the content, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single upload or live stream. So let's kick things off with the first few comments, and Jaren kicks things off here saying, playing draft, I traded Mateta for Raya. I'm 99% in the finals, Game Week 38. Keeper was Onana. Thoughts? I do like Mateta for the next couple of weeks, but yeah, Raya is a good purchase. Between the sticks, I think he's the best goalkeeper for the next 3 game weeks, at least on paper. And up until blank Game Week 34, he should do very well for you. Who do you think replaces Trent? Will Trent even get back into the squad this season? Well, there is the possibility of Curtis Jones playing as a right back. Quansah is also able to play there. And I've actually got a quote by Arne Slot, which I'll show you later in the stream, and that kind of directly tackles your question. Easy99 says, I got 57 minus 4 last week and have ends on the bench. Yeah, I would have got around 57 points as well if I didn't play the wild card. So it looks like that was probably the best course of action, kind of hindsight bias there. And it would have also allowed me to make 2 or 3 changes on the wild card now and prevent making transfers like selling Gabriel, which I'll eventually do just in time for Game Week 32 as I'm looking to bench boost. Dam's got out for Murphy. I like that move, and I think the timing could be really good with a great fixture against Leicester. He obviously got 13 points earlier this season against them. Still keep the wild card right now until double Game Week 33. We don't know what injuries will come. Yeah, it is a bit awkward though if you don't have the free hit to wildcard in 33, but I still get it. I mean, any time basically to use that chip from now until Game Week 35 looks very solid, and everyone's situation is different. Any late news on Gordon's fitness? That was covered in my team selection video yesterday, and I'll show you the exact quotes by Eddie Howe soon, instead of me just paraphrasing right now. Cyril says, would you go for Saliba or Gavardio on the wildcard if I already have Raya? That's a good question. They obviously both double in 33, but Arsenal have the better fixtures. And even, you could say this week and the next, Arsenal have a better chance of a clean sheet than Man City. I'd still go for Gavardio and balance your team out a little bit more, but I'm looking to replace Gabriel with Saliba, and I've also got Gavardio in my setup. When is the best time to play the triple captain? Isak in 32, Saka 33, maybe Marmush in 36, or another time. Well, if you've got no other chips to really worry about and, you know, kind of them intersecting like the assistant manager, I think Isak is my favourite. 2 home games, he has been really good this season. In terms of points per match, he is joint second with Saka, but Isak has played significantly more minutes, so his stats will be more impressive from that perspective. Trippier and Sarr or Livramento and Eze? Yeah, both good duos. I'd lean towards Livramento and Eze. Munoz, Saliba, Gavardio, Burn and Livramento start free. Yeah, so I would go for... It's a good question. I think I'd go for both Newcastle players here. It's rare that I do that, but it makes a lot of sense here. So Burn and Livramento. And then I think Saliba has the best chance of a clean sheet compared to Munoz and Gavardio, but I would favour the attacking threat of the Colombians, so I'd go for Munoz as well. Close one though, but certainly the Newcastle defenders I'd look to start this week. Hey Dylan, I'm on my wild card. Which is the best week to use triple captain? Is in 32, 33 or 36? Yeah, it'd be 32 for me, but if you've also got, you know, you mentioned the bench boost there, that ultimately depends on how you set your wild card up, but if you have no free hit, my advice is to bench boost in 32, then you can focus on tackling 33 and 34 in a slightly better way, because a lot of the teams that double in 33 will blank in 34, so that is a difficult balance to strike. But what I'm currently doing is bench boosting in 32 myself. If I still had the triple captaincy, then maybe I would have gone about things a little bit differently and free hitted, well, I was still free in 34, but bench boost in 33, because that chip allows me to kind of bail myself out of Game Week 34, but yeah, in your situation it might be slightly different. Game Week 36 might not be a double game week. I've said that multiple times, and if Spurs don't reach the Europa League semi-finals, then very likely we won't get a double in Game Week 36. So In terms of doubles, you're really looking at 32 and 33 as kind of set in stone. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of relying a lot on inconsistent teams and external factors and other competitions. So I think with a triple captain, the best time to use it in isolation is Gameweek 32, but I honestly wouldn't mind a bench boost 32 and triple captain 33 in your situation. I know the best 5 midfielders to take. It's going to be very similar to what I've built only last week. I just replaced Kluivert with Morgan Rogers potentially. You can always go for Sarr and Eze simultaneously, which I've also discussed. Anthony Gordon looks good, but a lot depends on the rest of your team. And for example, if you've got Mateta up front, I think I'm fairly happy to keep him and then go in a different direction with the midfield. Callum Jr. says, morning Dylan, benching headache between Saka, Mateta, Sarr and Foden. Yeah, I'd currently bench Foden, but it would not surprise me if he kind of trolled some FPL managers like yourself this week. But I think Saka, Mateta and Sarr would all be ranked higher in terms of captaincy lists and also expected points this week. And with Foden, his minutes are all over the place, so I don't mind benching him here. I'm also not expecting a high-scoring game, which could age horribly, to be fair, between Man United and Man City. I have gone for a kind of surprising prediction in that game. I picked Salah captain over Isak, especially the condition state of Isak. He does play on Monday night, though, which does help a lot, but yeah, it's not ideal for him to have this injury situation. I personally think he will start, but I'm not fully convinced. Especially Eddie Howe saying they made decisions for Isak. It's like Iraola saying it about Kluivert. I think Iraola is a bit different, though, because he did say that Kluivert will be unlikely to feature this weekend. I don't think Eddie Howe said anything along those lines, but you can't really trust Eddie Howe in press conferences sometimes. I think Eddie Howe will have Callum Wilson in the first 11, says easy. Isak as a late sub. I mean, look, Leicester's a decent time to rotate, so that is a good point, but it all depends on Isak's fitness, and every game is crucial. I know Leicester are very easily beatable, even with Callum Wilson or a different option up front, but I think Isak, if he is fit enough, will start the game, but that is a big if, of course. Triple captain, double Gameweek 32, wildcard 33, free hit 34, and bench boost 36. I'm not a huge fan of using the bench boost in 36, and as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, that might not even be a double Gameweek, so yeah, I'll reconsider that personally. It's a good chip strategy overall, and if Spurs reach the Europa League semi-finals, and let's say Aston Villa also reach the FA Cup final, then it's almost certain we'll get a double game week in 36 if that was the case. But you're relying on two, set of circumstances there. And I think the bench boost is best deployed in 32 or 33. Start Gavardio or Saliba, have Raya. So this is one of the reasons why I haven't bought Saliba yet. He went up in price overnight and Gabriel went down, so I've lost out on a bit of value there. But I'd start Gavardio. I'm not that confident of an Arsenal clean sheet. They are top of the clean sheet odds, according to several websites, but I'm not really on board with that. I'm thinking of doing Kinski to Pope and playing him instead of Pickford. And then do you think I should do Mbumo, Bowen, Kluivert to Murphy for a -4? Your thoughts? Unless you're really struggling for an 11, and so let's say, for example, you would need Mbumo, Bowen and Kluivert all to start. In that case, selling Kluivert to Murphy for a -4 is probably worth it because of the injury situation with Kluivert and Jacob Murphy facing Leicester away this week and also having a double in 32. But otherwise, I don't actually mind just keeping what you have for now, and then you can always buy Murphy or a different midfielder in the preceding game weeks. But as for your goalkeeper choice, I think Nick Pope is fine. I'll be honest. I think he's a decent option, but yeah, Kinski I think is obviously a good time to sell. He has been out of the equation for some time now. In terms of other goalkeepers, though, that I'd recommend, I think Raya stands out as the best one. Martinez obviously will be a shout for some people, but I'm still not quite on board with that yet. But yeah, I think Nick Pope is a good choice. I actually don't mind that. Thoughts on Son or Maddison as a one-week punt? That was covered in my transfer tips. I actually put Son there in the one-week punt section, but is he going to start? That is the biggest question. I think Maddison might have a bigger chance of starting than Heung-min Son, actually, which might help you in your quest for that sort of one-week punt. So both are ideal on a free hit if you want to take the risk, but it is a huge risk indeed. FPL Kevy says, morning. Morning, bro. Hope you're well. Wildcarded, no clue how it's going to go, but can bench boost next game week, so I guess fingers crossed. Also have double Arsenal defence, which worries me a little. I'm less convinced about Arsenal defensively now without Gabriel. That goes without saying. I think Gabriel's been Arsenal's best player this season, so that is a massive blow. And I think Kivior he has multiple mistakes in him, unfortunately. So yeah, I'd maybe reconsider the Arsenal defensive double up. And that's why waiting another week in my case and maybe not going for Saliba in the end could help me. But yeah, he is the most likely Gabriel replacement regardless. Hello, Dylan. Would you rather start Saliba or Gavardio? That's been covered, thank you. Gabriel says, hi, Dylan. Planning on playing my assistant manager this week. I can afford all managers. I am points chasing and so more likely to look for table bonus. Frank or Potter? Who is the best option in your opinion? Not a big fan of Potter facing Liverpool away. I just don't really see much there. Maybe 1 point max for scoring a goal. But in the other game weeks, yeah, I think Potter could be fairly decent. But you might have to move them about a lot. That's the problem with using the assistant manager at this point. I think, for example, you can go for Potter now, then go for Frank next week, and then go back to Potter. But yeah, I just don't like Graham Potter against Liverpool. Lager says, good day. I bought in Luis Diaz on my wildcard last weekend and it paid off. Would you bench him this game week and play Jacob Murphy? I'd definitely recommend starting Jacob Murphy over Diaz, but he has returned in 3 consecutive Premier League games, which of course is very impressive. Here's my wildcard team, no bench boost, free hit 34. Raya, Valdimarsson, Saliba, Munoz, Livramento, Dean, O'Shea, Salah, Saka, Gordon, Eze, Rogers, Mateta, Isak, Marmush. Any changes? 1.1 million in the bank. Yeah, for Gameweek 34, you've got the free hit, so that's completely fine. I'd still change maybe 1 or 2 things, especially in that defensive line, and also, you might as well go for a better goalkeeper than Valdimarsson. I know you've only got, 1.1 million in the bank. You might want to save that for future moves that are more important, but I change Valdimarsson to Verbruggen or Areola. It also depends when you're looking to bench boost, and if you've already got that chip out of the way, just go for Areola as your backup goalkeeper if needed. I'd definitely change O'Shea. And Luca Dean, I just don't expect him to start both games in 33 and also Southampton away in 32. So that's another possible change I'd recommend. The midfield and forward line is really strong though. I'm happy with that. And your other selections are sound. But Dean, O'Shea and Valdimarsson, I'd definitely change them for sure. All right, let's see what else we can go through before we catch up to the recent comments. Likewise, Pratik, and good to see you, Ilko. Kirkez or Agbadu? Not particularly fond of either. I think both of them will concede, but Kirkez has the attacking threat, so it would be Milos Kirkez. FPL Kevy says, deadline Dylan back again. Yeah, it's only been a few days, and of course there will be another UCL Fantasy deadline on Tuesday, and the next time I'll do an FPL deadline stream, I will be on holiday, but hopefully I can still get everything sorted. It all depends on the internet connection, which I just don't know about yet. What is the best wildcard for bench boost 32, triple captain 33? Yeah, the triple captain isn't that important in terms of like, does that impact your wildcard selections too much? Because ultimately, those players you're looking to triple captain, like Saka in 33 or Isak in 32, you would probably have on your wildcard regardless. In terms of a bench boost 32, this has been covered, by the way, in my best wildcard team videos and stuff, so check that out for more details. But essentially, I'm bench boosting in 32, and I'd still go for something very similar to what I have on screen, but I would change Gabriel, of course, to William Saliba and Justin Kluivert to Morgan Rogers. And that's a very solid bench boost. If we actually go to fpl.team right now and show you my provisional squad, so with 2 free transfers, I can make those transfers I just told you about, and my bench would have Verbruggen at home to Leicester, Rogers away to Southampton, and both Saliba and Milenkovic at home to Brentford and Everton respectively. And the starting 11 has Gavardio and Marmush facing Crystal Palace at home, Palmer facing Ipswich Town, also at home, Salah with an Anfield fixture there against West Ham, and I've got a triple up in Palace and Newcastle. So that's the sort of thing I'd go with. I think David Raya at home to Brentford is also fairly decent. So not much really would change from what I've wildcarded last week, but it would have been slightly better gaining a few more points and also being able to deal with the likes of Gabriel without making any transfers. All good, and sorry, hope you're doing well too. Twan says, hi Dylan, Rogers or Rashford or Murphy? My favourite is Murphy. And defender, choose 3. Kirkez, Munoz, Gavardio, Cucurella, Milenkovic. I'd go for Munoz, Gavardio, and I'd lean towards Kirkez. I don't think Nottingham Forest keep a clean sheet against Villa this week. Yeah, Palmer captain, he's ranked very highly. I'll show you the list very soon. I believe he's actually 4th in my list, but you'll see it in just a couple of moments. Maybe even 3rd, actually. He played very well against Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously, the booking was very disappointing, but was still able to get a bonus point. Hi, Dylan. Should I start Marmush or Dango? Marmush. Start Bowen or Sarr, says Ansari. Bowen's not a bad shout against Bournemouth, but I'd go for Sarr. Lee Fisher says, hi. Who would you swap Kluivert for, Savinho or a Villa mid? The problem with Villa mids, and even Rodgers, who is the most nailed on for me, there is something in the back of my mind which kind of screams out danger in terms of rotation. So I'm a bit concerned about that. But from a minute's perspective, I do think Rodgers is probably the best option, and I would favour him over Savinho, who is also a rotation risk. And Sari says, Dylan, you got your birthday gift with an Arsenal win and the Saka magic. Hope I get the same magic today. Yeah, I'm not trying to be negative, but Gabriel's injury pretty much ruined the entire thing. I still enjoy the Saka goal, despite not owning him, and Arsenal's win, which is the most important. But yeah, that Gabriel injury has reduced Arsenal's chances even further in the Champions League. So yeah, hopefully you get even better birthday luck. And yeah, happy birthday, enjoy the celebrations, and hopefully Arsenal just don't get any more injuries, which is asking for a lot, it seems. ARX says, can't afford Gavardi on the wild card. Do you think Ruben is a good replacement? He should start most games, but I'm not a big fan. I think Gavardio's the only C defender I'd recommend, so I try to find a way to make it possible. Gavardio or Milenkovic, who would you start? And is Isak worth a captaincy shout? Yes, I mean, he's my captain for a reason. That might change before the deadline, but the only problem with Isak is the injury doubt. Otherwise, I think most of us would captain without any hesitation. With the first question, you're saying Gavardio or Milenkovic. I'm going for Gavardio myself. Milenkovic is my backup defender, so I think that also answers your question. Should I bring in Milenkovic or Saliba on my wildcard? If you aren't free hitting in 34, I think Milenkovic could be very decent, especially if you've got Raya and goal already. I'm less keen on the Arsenal defensive double-up nowadays, but I'll still probably go for Saliba as my Gabriel replacement next week. Will Burn and Livramento be safe for double Gameweek 32 or triple captain Isak? I think so. I'm not a huge fan of a Newcastle defensive double-up beyond this week. I think Leicester away is the most appealing. I could see Newcastle keeping a clean sheet there, but afterwards, not really. I don't have the same sensation even against Crystal Palace and United at home. Pope or Raya? Raya for me. This week, it has to be said, Pope is the better one, but who would I rather have on the wild card? It's going to be Raya. Will Burn and Livramento be safe? Yeah, that's covered. Try not to repeat the question, please. Hey, Dylan, Foden, no show in Gameweek 30 was a surprise. Yeah, tell me about it. But Williams 5-pointer auto-subbed in for me, so not terrible. 58 points and a green arrow, so happy with that. Would you start Foden this week? Depends who your other options are, but in some cases, I would say no. Who's essential on the wildcard without a free hit? I wouldn't say essential, but I'd look at possibly going for Nuri, Milenkovic. I think a Forest midfielder like Elanga could also be very good. Yeah, triple up in Newcastle you'd certainly want to go for. I'd recommend Livramento, one of Murphy or Gordon, and Alexander Isak. So those players would kind of help you a lot in navigating 34. Cole Palmer, but having said that, you'd also want Saka for 33, so you can always make that switch from Saka to Palmer in Gameweek 34. Nuri, Kanate or Gavardio, who to start? If it's just one of them, I'd favour Nuri slightly, but not by much. Saka or Son this week? It would be Son, but I'm very concerned about his minutes, and the same goes for all these Spurs assets. I think it's very difficult to predict their starting 11, but Heung-min Son, I think most Spurs fans will tell you, will likely not start the game. We could see something like Johnson and maybe Tell in the forward positions, possibly even Odebear, but the likes of Solanke and Son, it's quite likely they'll be benched in my opinion. Pedro Porro, though, for example, for those that have him, I'd expect him to start, so that might help you a little bit. Yeah, Gavardio or Kirkes, I'd lean towards Gavardio, but there's not much in it. Hi Dylan, I'm looking to wildcard after this game week or the next. What are the pros and cons about 32 and 33 bench boosts? Yeah, as covered before, I'm going to try not to repeat myself too much, but essentially with the Game Week 32 bench boost, it is slightly better in terms of navigating 33 and 34 because a lot of the teams that double in 33 will blank in 34. So by having more double Game Week players and kind of more investment in 33 with that focus on it, you will then have more players blanking in 34. So that's why a lot of people who don't have the free hit will find themselves kind of gravitating towards that 32 bench boost. Get out of the way as soon as possible because I do think the bench boost can be a hindrance and it is an overrated chip. Then you can focus on Game Week 33, 34, and then the rest of the season as they come about. Hey Dylan, would you start Foden or Rodgers this week? I'm leaning Foden as a good chance of starting. Yeah, I think this week, between those two, I'd favour Foden. Rodgers is also facing a stern Forest defence, but I'm also backing Villa to win. But Rodgers can be a troll in FPL terms, and I'll probably find that out again if I buy him again in 32. Hi, good morning. What do you think about bringing Harvey Barnes in? That's only a 1-week punt with Harvey Barnes. So if you're able to do that and you're wildcarding in 33, great, I'm on board. Otherwise, I just think Harvey Barnes will be a huge minutes risk and a big headache for you. So I wouldn't recommend that long term. Rashford, maybe not to the same extent. I think he is currently first choice for Aston Villa, but Ollie Watkins is also kind of nursing an injury. And I think that's the key reason why Rashford has been getting the opportunities recently. But yeah, I'd be more keen on Rashford than Barnes in the long term. Let me put it that way. I'm on a wildcard and bench boost 33. Keep Bruno or Mbeumo for the bench boost. Well, I'd say Bruno Fernandes is in better form. He just won the Player of the Month award, and yeah, he's been terrific recently. Brian Mbeumo's got the penalties just like Bruno, but yeah, Mbeumo's been so consistent throughout the entire season, it has to be said. Difficult one to say, I think, but for the Gameweek 33 bench boost, I would lean towards Bruno Fernandes. Not by much. I also think United have slightly better fixtures than Brentford, which plays a key part. So thank you to those that have dropped a like. If you haven't done so already, consider doing so, and also subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and check all the links in the description, like my X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, the Discord server, FPL League, and Spotify. Potter or Frank? I honestly don't like either, if I'm being completely honest. I'd lean towards Graham Potter, but I'd also try to maneuver it in such a way where you don't have him against Liverpool away next week, but that's just my 2 cents on it. Pratik says, or Bowen. Not sure what that's in relation to. I did answer this question a few minutes ago now. Yeah. Bowen is a good option for Gameweek 33. I'd probably favour Bowen out of the 3. Better fixture in Gameweek 33 and also faces Southampton away. Start Savio or Gavardio? I'm not sure if Savio starts. That's the problem with it. Otherwise, I'd lean towards him because I think United will score. Hello, Dylan. Hope you're well. Who's the best captain this game week? I think Isak, but there's a big, obviously, yellow mark. There's a big caution and yellow flag. So, yeah, that has to be reconsidered. But he is currently top of my list. Bench 2 of Saliba, Dean, Munoz, Gavardio, Livramento. I would not be benching Livramento this week. So, I'd bench Luca Dean and possibly Saliba. That's my kind of personal take on it, but Arsenal are top of the clean sheet odds, so you may disagree. Gavardio, Saliba, Aït-Nouri, Munoz, bench 1. I'd consider benching Saliba. So double Gameweek 33 for Arsenal, yeah, that's been covered in all my videos, and even before the announcement happened, I think 3 days ago, it was also kind of widely known that we'll likely get Arsenal doubling in 33. The same goes for the likes of Aston Villa, Crystal Palace, and Newcastle. Sorry, not Newcastle, Man City. Will Burnley and Livramento be safe for double Gameweek 32 with triple captain Isak? Yeah, you've asked this question a few times, mate. That's been covered. Best time to bench boost in Gameweek 33 or 36? 33. I don't like the bench boost in 36. We might not even get a double game week there. So, hey Dylan, has Gabriel gone down in price? Yeah, to 6.3 million. Is it better to use assistant manager from Game Week 31 or bench boost in 33 and AM from 35, 36? Well, that is a good question. I would favour the bench boost in 33. Get it out of the way in either 32 or 33 and then use the assistant manager to end this season. Opinions on having a lineup of Sells, Milenkovic, Robinson, Howson, Elanga, Mbeumo, Murphy, Salah, Palmer, Isak, and Better as my Gameweek 34 team. I would captain Mbeumo, Isak, or Salah. Yeah, I mean, that's fairly decent. It can compete with a lot of free hitters. You might miss out on a few players like Mateus Cunha, though, who I definitely would prefer over Beto, but yeah, ultimately it's a good team for Gameweek 34. Hi, Dylan, start Gavardio or Saliba? I'd lean towards Gavardio personally, and that's a key reason why I haven't bought Saliba yet. I could also have Bruno in 34. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good options, despite the teams that are blanking there. But yeah, Bruno's fine. And other midfielders you can consider. Yeah, I think Fernandes would be probably the best one, actually, from the ones you don't have. Bench Bruno, Bowen, or Sarr? Reluctantly, I'd bench Bowen, and I don't like that. Start free from Konsa, Munoz, Gavardio, Saliba, Burn. Yeah, I'd start Burn, Munoz and Gavardio. Is it worth bringing in Isak this week for a hit, or just play Vanossen and wait until next week to bring him in? It is a risk either way. Isak is going to be highly owned. The EO is going to be massive. But having said that, buying a player who is pretty much a doubt going into this week is also going to be a big concern. But I'd lean towards bringing Isak in for a hit because he's also a good purchase for Gameweek 33. And even for Gameweek 32, and then for blank Gameweek 34, he's got Ipswich Town at home, so he can also help you navigate that blank without using the free hit. Thank you, Pratik. Start Rodgers or Eze, says Baraf. Eze. Hi, Dylan. Who to pick, Rashford or Rodgers? I'd lean towards Rodgers just from a minutes perspective. If I had a feeling both of them would get a similar amount of minutes, then I'd have a different answer, but I think that is also very important. Dylan, what would your strategy be for AM? Is that AM? Who has for someone who has wildcard, bench boost, free hit, and triple captain left. So I did do something about this in my chip strategy video, but that was now, a week or two ago. And of course, we've had a few weeks go by, so the assistant manager will be a bit more awkward to fit in now. For example, in your case, you've used that already, so that's good. If you're happy with your team, you could possibly afford to wildcard a little bit later in the season, but I would recommend using the bench boost. I think in your case, I'd wildcard. Yeah, it's a difficult one, I think. Because the wildcard could also be very important after the blank, and then you can just set your team up for the rest of the season, and that could be a differential play. But Gameweek 36, I'm not a big fan of using a chip necessarily for that specific week. There might not even be a double Gameweek to really talk about. So free and 34, I think that goes without saying. I would probably triple captain in 33 in your case, bench boost in 32 and wildcard 35, but your team might be in a kind of situation where you need to make a lot of transfers and the wildcard needs to be deployed earlier. So I don't know that information, so it makes it difficult to answer your question. Bench Murphy, Sarr or Eze? Reluctantly, it would be Eze, but I don't like benching any of them. Saka and Palmer and Salah without a third forward, or should I just choose two of them? No bench boost. That's a nice play, though, having all three of them at the same time. So if you can make that work, I'd highly recommend it. And in an ideal world, you can also have a third forward like Joao Pedro, who is cheap but still affordable, and also gives you a very good option for Gameweek 32, for example. I would buy Rodgers and Milenkovic in 32, then roll in 33, and then make 4 transfers in Gameweek 34. Yeah, I'm in a similar boat to you. Rodgers and Saliba are on the watch list for me. Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat, but I've got the free hit in 34. Should I stick with Bruno this match day or bring in one of Rashford, Rodgers and Asensio? I'd stick with Bruno. Yeah, I like Murphy. That's a good shout as a differential captain. Savio and Doku expected to start in the flanks against United. Yeah, the rotation though is just, I'd rather avoid it. And with Savio, he's not someone I'd recommend buying in, but for those that have him, definitely worth holding on to, and you might even want to start him against United this week. Bench 1 of Sarr Murphy. Probably Sarr, but I don't like it. Kusanov was rested in Gameweek 30, says Insane Gamer. The Man City expected lineup is Edison, Gavardio, Kusanov, Diaz, Nunes, Bernardo Silva, Nico Gonzalez, Grealish, Doku, Marmoush and Savio. No Foden once again, if that's the case. Let me know where you got that predicted lineup from. Don't have a strong squad. Should I wildcard or assistant manager this week? If those are your only chips available, it is awkward, but I prioritize the wildcard in that case and try to fix your team in general. Then you can assist the manager next week, although that does cover the blank in 34, which is not an ideal scenario. Hey Dylan, do you reckon Gordon starts? I don't think so, based on Eddie Howe's comments. I might as well get into that very soon because that will also help you and a lot of people here in terms of answering different questions. So let us go to different screens first. So this is the FPL Dylan League. There is an auto-join link in the description below, and there's also a code, so different ways of joining. Callum is 10th in the world and also top of this league, and we've got a lot of high-performing managers here, and thousands overall, so be sure to join if you haven't done so already. With the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating until Gameweek 36, you can see here that Fantasy Football Hub have like potential doubles, but the chances are very unlikely, in my opinion. So yeah, of course, with Gameweek 37, that could cause, you know, the Gameweek 36 double because teams will blank in 37, the FA Cup finalists and the scheduled opponents. So that is something that remains to be seen. But Newcastle, Man City, Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest and Wolves are in the top 5. And if you look at those near the bottom, Ipswich Town, Everton, Fulham, Brentford, Leicester and Man United. Even some pretty decent teams from an FPL perspective, or at least they were, like Bournemouth, Brighton, Arsenal. They're kind of mid-table here because of the blank in 34. With predicted points, Salah is top once again. Palmer is second with Mateta, Solanke and Isak in the top 5. This assumes that these players start though, and Solanke might not do so against Southampton. Sarr, Saka, Mbeumo, Wissa, Kivior. I don't know how he's that high, but that is the top 10 for Arsenal. I'm sure that is probably an error, and Kivior will be reduced a little bit. With the assistant manager, a lot of people are asking about the best choices, and of course Glasner does stand out. The tail bonus isn't as appealing as it would have been a couple of weeks ago because Palace have been generally in good form, but Arteta is ranked highest here from Gameweeks 31 to 33. Pep Guardiola is second, Ange Postecoglou is third, and we've got Glasner and Eddie Howe in the top 5. If it was for me personally, I'd rank Glasner first. I think I'd probably go for Eddie Howe second and Arteta third. Arne Slot is also there in the top 6. You've got Amorim, Emery, Moyes, Frank, Potter. I have been asked about him and Thomas Frank quite a few times in this stream, but you can see McKenna, Pereira, Nuno, Juric and Van Nistelrooy as the bottom 5 managers, but take that with a pinch of salt. It's just expected points and it's not the be-all and end-all. With price changes, Livramento, Raya, Sarr, Rashford, Son, Marmoush and Strand Larsen are expected to go up in price tonight. This might need a refresh though. No, I think that's pretty much it. Nothing's changed so far. In terms of, let's see, the price falls, it's Mbeumo, Hudson-Odoi, Robinson, Trent, Szoboszlai, Minter, Trossard, Yarmoliuk, Johnson, Fass, Mitoma, Gibbs-White, Bowen and Kluivert. What I might end up doing, which is obviously very risky, is making early moves for Gameweek 32. But I probably wouldn't recommend that, to be honest. And buying Rodgers and Saliba quite early. But yeah, I think I'm just going to stomach it because by downgrading Kluivert to Morgan Rodgers, I make up a bit of money anyway. So it's not a big deal. Unless you're going to be priced out, I think it's very important to just hold on, wait for more information. And sometimes it can ultimately backfire if you make these transfers too early. I've also got some different polls out and I posted them on my YouTube channel. There have been more votes cast since I went live, but Saliba is top in terms of Gabriel replacements with 60% of the votes. Van Dijk is second with 16%. Then you've got Konsa and Ait-Nouri in third and fourth respectively. For the captaincy, 57% have voted for Isak despite the yellow flag. Salah is second. Then you've got Saka in third and Palmer in fourth. I have to be honest, I prefer Palmer over Saka, but that also might depend on the ownership and which players you actually have in your FPL team. Let's also compare the stats of Saliba and Van Dijk, but obviously the key difference here is Arsenal double in 33, whilst Liverpool won't have another double for the rest of the season, but they also feature in blank Gameweek 34. So if you have the free here, I'd highly recommend Saliba over Van Dijk in my opinion, but they're both good options. And for a Gameweek 33 bench boost, Van Dijk is still very solid facing Leicester away. I think Liverpool will keep a clean sheet there. And in terms of attacking numbers, Van Dijk will still be more appealing in general, but the numbers aren't really too dissimilar. In terms of shots, Van Dijk is significantly ahead, but with the XG, Saliba has higher, expected assists, big chances, Van Dijk has 1 more, 6 more key passes, same number of big chances created, so identical stats you could say, and neither have been that threatening from set pieces, at least compared to previous seasons, but I think Van Dijk is better in the air than William Saliba. And of course, Gabriel was one of the ones we hyped in the beginning of the season, and he kind of fell off a cliff in terms of the goal-scoring threat, and now he's out for the rest of the campaign. So for FPL Challenge, which I'm sure I'll be asked about if I haven't been asked so already, I've gone for Pickford and Nick Pope as my goalkeepers, because yes, I am backing an Everton clean sheet, but hopefully I am wrong. Gvardiol, Pedro Porro, Ait-Nouri, Trippier as my captain, and Livramento is my current defensive line. So this week, the challenge is called Park the Bus. You have an unlimited budget, and you pick 2 goalkeepers. and 5 defenders. There could be 1 or 2 modifications, and I think most people would favour Arsenal over Everton, so you could go for Raya in goal or maybe Saliba in that defensive line, but that's what I've currently gone with in this fantasy format as well. I'll go back to it at some point, but let's go to my FPL squad for now, and very soon I'll show you graphics about injury updates and also the top 10 captaincy options, which I'm sure a lot of you will be very interested to see. Yeah, How is a good shout for an AM. Not sure if it's worth a -4 necessarily, but yeah, I just covered that. Dylan, have you already done the FFH stats for the week? Yeah, obviously, by the time you asked that before, it's done now. How many percentages that Isak are fully fit against Leicester? I couldn't give you a percentage, but I think he starts at the moment. That's why he's my captain. If I had a different feeling, he wouldn't be my captain, and I'd go for the likes of Salah or Palmer instead. Dylan, would you suggest keeping Palmer for now and switching to Saka later in bench boost 33? If you have a lot of free transfers available, then yes. But otherwise, it is booking in a move, and I found out the hard way by keeping Kluivert, which was a mistake and also very risky in of itself, and also Gabriel's injury, which was unfortunate, that very quickly you could find yourself in a precarious situation. So yeah, if you've only got 1 free transfer, I'd maybe reconsider it and just go for Saka in the first place. Yeah, best assistant manager for me is Oliver Glasner. He's just less appealing than he was a couple of weeks ago. What should I do with Timber? Hold, as discussed in my Trans Tips podcast. Start Gavardio or Konsa? Gavardio. Kayo says bench 1 of Sarr, Saka, Marmoush, Mateta, Rogers. Probably Rogers. Start Mbuma or Murphy, says DJCNCN. Murphy. Best Newcastle defender, says El Barcelo del Fantasy. Probably Livramento. There's not much in it between him, Burn, and Trippier. The reason why I favour the cheaper defenders is because they save you $1 million in price, and Trippier has a pretty bad injury record. He's currently doubtful as well. Yeah, I mean, look, they're just putting predicted lineups in Same Gamer, but I get it. Sometimes I check out different sources and web pages for their predicted lineups, but I take it with a pinch of salt at all times. Start Mateta or Sarr? If I had to pick one, it's probably Sarr this week. He did score a brace against Brighton earlier this season, but I don't like benching any of them. Would you start Mbuma? Yeah, covered. Start Gavardio or Saliba and 2 of Watkins, Rashford and Gordon. Gavardio for me, and it'd be Rashford and Gordon, but I think Gordon will probably be benched and it will be Harvey Barnes. I think with Anthony Gordon, though, he can come off the bench and score, and he's also got the highest ceiling if he does start. Sirius' wildcard team, triple captain 32, bench boost 33, free at 34. That's sound, and because you've got the free hit, you don't need to worry too much about bench boosting in 33. You can navigate that very well, so yeah, I like it. Good squad overall. There's not much I would change. I'm not a huge fan of Konsa, but I get why he's included, so there's not really many complaints from me. Start 3 of these 4. Yeah, Livramento, Munoz and Gavardio for me. I'd bench Timber. Yeah, best captain is Isak, but if you are unsure, I think Salah and Palmer would be next in line. Wildcard is 0.5 million short. Who to downgrade? Bench boost 33, Raya, Areola, Gavardio, Saliba, Munoz, Livramento, Konsa, Murphy, Salah, Saka, Sarr, Savio, Marmoush, Mateta, Isak. Oh, that's pretty good. I like the team overall. It's well thought out. There's not much you need to change just yet, in my opinion. FPL Challenge got 27 points and forgot to transfer out Kluivert. Yeah, I think I still had Foden in the end. I didn't change it. I forgot about it. Is it worth to have Sells and Raya if you have a decent team value? If you aren't free hitting in 34, then my answer would be yes, because Sells obviously features there. And it's not the best of fixtures in the world against Brentford, but it's still fairly decent. So that would be my answer. If you do have the free hit, though, I just don't see much of a need to do that, because then you'll have benching headaches between Raya and Sells throughout the entire season, basically. Kivior should be nailed on yet, but maybe Arsenal try something a bit different against Everton and they play Declan Rice as a centre-back. He actually played a lot of football there at West Ham. Maybe they go for Jurien Timber and Ben White, who are close to being available. And if I'm being honest, I want to see that instead of Kivior because he makes too many mistakes. Best captain who covered Gameweek 31, 33, Potter, Glasner, or Potter, Howe, Arteta. Okay, I get your question. I would lean towards the Potter, Glasner route because you save a transfer and you also have a bit of a high ceiling, in my opinion. Start one of Sar or Savinho. Sar. And I would go for Josko Gvardiol. There's a high chance Saka starts, but would only get 60, 70 minutes. Yeah, that's the key reason why I went for Palmer in the first place. I still expect him to outscore Saka over the next three, which included last week where Saka is leading by 2 points. But yeah, I agree with you. Kivior was high because he's a bonus magnet. When he came on, he was doing all the actions that get you BPS. Yeah, I still think it's way too high, but I get your point. Sar or Murphy? Murphy. If you don't have Salah, I'd captain either Isak or Palmer in your case, but maybe you don't have Palmer and you've got Saka. I don't know your team, but yeah, it would be Alexander Isak. Start Elanga or Sar? It's close, but I would favour Ismaila Sar this week. KFC Boy says, is this a good wildcard? Yes, it is a good wildcard. I'd go for something very similar. Yeah, I think that's fine. I'd possibly favour Mateta over Vanossen, but budget is also a big concern. Raya and Saliba or Gvardiol? Gvardiol. Thank you, Surya. Jake says start Rodgers or Visser. Difficult one. I think I favour Visser. Would you start Sar or Joao Pedro? Sar. Savia or Elanga start? Elanga. Sells or Sar for this game week? Jose Sar, but I'd rarely say that from now until the end. I activated the AM chip on Glasner and plan to keep him for 3 matches. What are your thoughts? I still like him. I'm just less keen on him because of the lack of table bonus compared to what we saw a couple of weeks ago, because they have gone up the Premier League table. Benguino says, hey Dylan, start free of Kirkes, Munoz, Burn, Saliba, Gvardiol. Thanks. Burn, Munoz and Gvardiol. Son versus Vanossen differential captain. If I knew he starts, then it would be Heung-min Son, but that is a big if, and I'm less convinced about that now than I was a couple of days ago. Thank you, Varnit. As he says, I like the stream. It'd be greatly appreciated. Let's actually go through some different questions. So, yeah. Different questions. Let's go for a few more, then I'm going to show you some different graphics. Start 1, Sar Savinho and Consul Gvardiol. Yeah, this has been covered earlier. So, Sar and Gvardiol for me. Foden or Sar? Sar. Start Saka or Eze? Saka. And I would go for Munoz. Wildcard is 0 point family and short who to downgrade. Possibly Savio to Rodgers. Then again, I'm not a huge fan of Savio in the first place. Kirkes or Munoz or Sar to start? Sar. Start Saliba or Livramento? Livramento. Have Raya bench boost 33. Get Edison or Martinez? Probably Martinez. I wrote the wrong chips earlier, Dylan. What should be the strategy if someone has the wild card, triple captain, bench boost, and AM left? Okay, I would wildcard now, but then again, your team might be good and you don't feel the need to do it. I would bench boost in 32, triple captain 33, and use the assistant manager in 35. Or 36, depends, but yeah, around that time. Hi Dylan, when's the best time to AM? In isolation, it would be now. But you've also got the wild card and other chips like the triple captain and bench boost that you might want to use in the next couple of weeks. Once you have it activated, it will be basically in your squad for free game weeks there. I'm going Potter. Am I mad, Dylan? It is a risk, but people may have done that against Arsenal not so long ago and got a big return from it. So there is a high ceiling. Bowen or Murphy? Jacob Murphy for me. When would you recommend using triple captain and on who? 32 on Isak, but once again, it can clash with other chips, so be very mindful about that. Strand Larsen versus Vanossen, my biggest dilemma for my wildcard team. If you don't have the free hit, I'd possibly favour Strand Larsen, but yeah, that is probably a key determining factor. If it wasn't for that, I think Vanossen's a better FPL asset. And yeah, it's a shame I didn't keep him for one more week. Should I do Elanga to Rodgers, Rashford, or just save out a transfer for Gameweek 33? Save a transfer. Best AM in order? Yeah, covered a few times, mate, but Glasner, Howe, Arteta for the next 3 game weeks. Ariolo, Henderson, Housen, O'Shea, Housen, and I'd say Areola. Yep. Hayden and play 2, Kanate, Saliba, Gavadio, and Sarr or Eze. I'd start Gavadio, and I'd possibly go for Kanate over Saliba here, but it's close. Sarr, Eze, Sarr. Would you start Sarr or Rodgers? Sarr. Rashford or Savinho? For this week, it's very close, but I do favour Rashford. Start Sarr or Timber? Sarr. Savio or Eze? Eze. I am Monson says, did a mistake, transferred out Gabriel for Milenkovic for a free transfer, but forgot I needed to transfer out a Newcastle player to get Howe in. Would you do a -4 for Howe? I'm not a huge fan of taking a hit for Howe, if I'm honest, but there is a high ceiling with, you know, back-to-back double game weeks by activating the chip now, so I get your plan. I mean, what's your alternative? That's what my question would be. Ian says, my team sells Robinson, Gay, Grieve, Saka, Mbumo, Elanga, Salah captain, Palmer, Isak, and Marmoush. Yeah, good team overall. I like the fact you've got Saka, Salah, and Palmer at the same time. That is a big plus point. And yeah, over the coming weeks, you could tweak a few things. I think Robinson is good for Game Week 34, but otherwise he's a sell, in my opinion. Gay... Yeah, look, you've got a very good midfield and forward line, but if I'm being honest, I think your defensive line is lacking, and it needs a lot of changes. Easy says, my wildcard double game week 3 players of Arsenal, City, Palace, and Villa is Saka, Sarr, Mateta, Marmoush, and Rodgers Asensio. Yeah, looks good. I think Rodgers is probably the one just for the minutes, but otherwise, yeah, Rashford and Asensio are certainly very interesting. Which Villa player of Rashford? Yeah. You're asking about their prices. Well, Rodgers is 5.5 million. As for Asensio, he is 6.1 and Rashford is 6.6. So if you haven't already, drop a like on this stream. Let's get this to 100 plus at the very least, and then we can push on towards 200. Let's go to some different screens. I'm going to start off with predictions and then going all the way to the top 10 captains. So I've gone for Everton 1, Arsenal 0, which is why for a lot of people I've recommended benching Saliba, but that is just a personal take of mine, and it also depends on if you've got Raya starting in goal already, but I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I don't see Arsenal-Everton scoring more than 2 goals, you know, in isolation, but maybe I'll be wrong about that. It's just, I see a cagey affair. Crystal Palace 1, Brighton 1, Ipswich Town 1, Wolves 2, West Ham 1, Bournemouth 1, Aston Villa 2, Nottingham Forest 1, Brentford 2, Chelsea 2, Fulham 1, Liverpool 2, Tottenham Hotspur 3, Southampton 1. I've gone for a draw in the Manchester Derby, and then Leicester 0, Newcastle 3. That's what I've gone for. Let me know your predictions in the live chat, and I'll go back to this towards the end of the live stream. So moving on to the highlight player and team weakness. So I've gone for Leicester, as I like to do on this channel. I think currently they are the worst team in terms of form and also performances. So I think Harvey Barnes as a 1-week punt could be a very good option against his former club. And what you see here on screen is the heat map for shots. So the blue circles indicate the chances Leicester have conceded all season. And the heat map is Harvey Barnes and his shot volume in this Premier League campaign. So I think both Harvey Barnes and Jacob Murphy are great options for Game Week 31. And for the clean sheet odds and over 2 goals, Arsenal are top with a 49% chance of keeping a clean sheet, which is significantly higher than Newcastle, which is quite surprising. But the 2 are second with 41%. Newcastle, Liverpool, Villa and Wolves complete the top 6. But in terms of chance of scoring over 2 goals, Tottenham Hotspur are top with a 50% chance according to DraftHound. And the clean sheet probabilities are taken by fantasyfootballpundit.com. Southampton are bottom with a 9% chance of keeping a clean sheet and a 10% chance of scoring over 2 goals. I think that should be slightly higher in my opinion, the chance of scoring over 2 goals, but that's just my perspective there. So let's complete this coverage with the top 10 captaincy options, and we have a new name, and not Mohamed Salah in top spot, and it is Alexander Isak, but he is yellow flagged, which is the only caveat to it. So Isak is top, Salah, Palmer, Murphy and Son are in the top 5, but that's assuming these players start. And I think Heung-min Son is a massive risk, to say the least. So maybe the likes of Johnson would be a safer bet in that Spurs attack. Barnes, Saka, Sarr, Mbuma and Fernandes complete the top 10. It's a very different looking top 10 that you're probably accustomed to. And yeah, expect to see a lot of changes and different players featured in the upcoming sections and segments in, for example, Double Gameweek 32, 33 and Blank Gameweek 34. So that is the top 10 captaincy options. And there are a lot of injury updates that we got yesterday, but this one was something we knew from a few days ago. Gabriel is out for the rest of the season, and he actually went down in price to 6.3 million, unfortunately. So I am looking to sell him, that goes without saying, but I might wait until next week. That is the most likely scenario, which I discussed in my team selection. But let's whiz through these because there are a lot of updates here. I was asked about Isak and Trippier, and Eddie Howe said the following: "We'll wait and see today. I will see them, Trippier and Isak, for the first time today. We don't think we had any big injuries from Wednesday night, but we have a few niggles. We are monitoring Anthony Gordon. He is still recovering. He has done individual training, not group training. We'll have to wait and see." And I also included a quote about Harvey Barnes because it does imply that he will start against Leicester based on Eddie Howe's comments. He says Harvey has been chomping at the bit to play. He has been desperate to showcase what he can do. He brings unique things to the group. So hopefully, for those that maybe want a 1 week punt, he does get the nod there. So for Justin Kluivert, this was also mentioned in my team selection video yesterday. Iriola said it's difficult for him to feature this weekend. Justin is going to be difficult. I wouldn't say that's a definitely not. We'll see today if he can train with us and help us from the bench at least. But he feels tight, so it's difficult. It is not a serious injury, but as Iriola said the other day, I think on the Tuesday or Wednesday, it is about fatigue and overload more than anything else. We also got more updates from Iriola, very extensive, but with Ryan Christie, to kind of summarize that very lengthy quote, he basically said Christie's going to be out and it's not looking too good there. With more Bournemouth team news, he said probably the best news is that we expect Julian Araujo to be in the squad because he's training well. That's good, and it's a little bit like last week. We are recovering some of the defenders we've had out, like Senesi, Smith, and now Araujo, but now the issue is the offensive side. Next up is Nottingham Forest. So Ola Aina is out, but it doesn't seem to be too serious of an issue. So he said, we did the scan and he's going to be out for a while and not available. Okay, I think, so yeah, that obviously completely contradicts what I just said. But on FPL, I think they did have him as potentially back by the 12th of April. Yeah, that probably isn't going to be the case based on what Nuno just said. And as for Chris Wood, assessing, like I've been telling you, it's going to be day to day. Hopefully tomorrow better, and he continues to improve. With Liverpool, Arne Slot said this about Alisson's injury. So with Alisson, it's simple. It is a concussion, and you have to tick a lot of boxes. The moment he does, he'll be in goal. The moment he doesn't, we are following the protocol. And he also talked about the possibility of playing Curtis Jones as a right back. With Trent and Gomez, they're not going to be back in the upcoming weeks. Conor Bradley will have to wait and see if he's ready to be with the squad for Sunday. Then, of course, Curtis is an option because he did well. But I think Quansah did well a few times in that position also. So with Tottenham Hotspur, Ange Postecoglou said, Mickey van der Ven is alright. He cramped up against Chelsea. Obviously hadn't played 90 minutes for a while. The positive thing is that he felt really good apart from the cramping up. It was a tough game defensively. We had to work hard. Everyone else, nothing significant coming out of that game. So with Everton, David Moyes has said the following: Ndiaye and McNeil are both back in training. It is being back in training, obviously, and we got him some minutes the other night. Look, he's been getting closer. It's just that he's probably lacking that sharpness, but he's back in the frame and we're considering him. Dwight is back in training. He's been back in and had 3 or 4 days now on the grass, so he's getting closer. And if you can get him included, we will do. And on Lindstrom, he said he is not available. He's going to get checked by a specialist. He's got a groin problem. So those are the latest updates on the Toffees. And with Brighton, very short and sweet. The squad will be the same as Aston Villa. So that is all you need to know about Brighton. With Brentford, Thomas Frank said everyone from the Newcastle game is fine. The 3 boys, Rico Henry, Hickey and Nunes, who played for Brentford B against Fleetwood Town under 21s, are in a good place. And also Jensen is fine and training well. He could be available on Sunday. Damsgaard is fine. It is no secret that he will start on Sunday. So there you go. Short and sweet there from Frank also. but not from Arteta. There are a lot of updates here, so I'll try to kind of bring it down and summarize it as best as I can. But Timber and White could be fit to face Everton, and I'll be honest, I'd love to see both of them start in central defence. So one of them at right back, the other one partnering Saliba, and then having Skelly as the left back. That is what I'd want to see in Gabriel's absence. And with Bukayo Saka, on whether he could start at Goodison Park, that's a possibility. We're going to decide tomorrow what is the best option for that, because it's not only him involved. We have a lot of players to move, and some players know they're not going to be able to finish the game, so it's a lot to decide. So yeah, there you go. Pretty self-explanatory there. With Chelsea, Enzo Maresca said this on Fofana and Lavia. West has had a muscular problem for a few days, and we are waiting for more checks for Sunday. Romeo is out. Then, of course, feel free to pause and rewind for any of these quotes if you want the full picture. For Ruben Amorim, he said, Kobe Mainoo is returning to training, so we'll see and assess for this game already. Of course, he cannot play a full game. He's a long time without training. De Ligt has an issue. He has something during the game at Forest, and we have to assess. I think the rest is normal. Mason Mount can start, but we have to manage his minutes still. So we are getting closer to the end, but there are so many quotes, I'm telling you. Emery also said this about Aston Villa, if I can pause it and go back. We will train this afternoon. Bailey is getting better, but we'll check the afternoon how he's progressing. Barkley is working with the team this week. We can feel happy because now we are recovering players and not getting players injured. I will decide this afternoon how the players are for the match tomorrow. So for Southampton, Juric also stated, so Paul Owonochu has a problem with his ankle. Today he didn't train, but we will see tomorrow. Ryan Manning is okay. Leslie Okochoku is okay. And Will Smallbone will be back in training tomorrow. Ipswich Town. So yeah, McKenna always has a lengthy quote. He said there's nothing new from the other night, which is a bonus. Everyone who played the game came through the game. So that's all we need to know. The rest is just waffle, maybe. With Oliver Glasner on Chris Richards. No, unfortunately, he was very close to training with us today. He was outside on the pitch. It was a very short session, but he's not 100%. And then we spoke. So that is another blow to Crystal Palace, but he shouldn't be too far off a return. And with Fulham, Marco Silva said, Kenny Tete is training 100% with the team, and it's a matter of time for him to be in the squad list. He is going to be in contention to be involved. It could be Liverpool. It could be other games. It will be my decision. Soon, we're going to see him involved in the squad list. It's nice to see Harry Wilson around the squad, the grass, doing some individual work. He'll be with us soon, and that's great news in terms of the wide attacking areas off the pitch, where you miss a player of his characteristics who can help the team. So yeah, that is it. So yeah, we have reached a conclusion of that. It was obviously very extensive, more so than previous streams as well, but hopefully that's given you the full picture in terms of injury updates and everything you need to know. And if we do get any leaks or any information before the deadline, that will also be covered on this channel. Will Gordon start in the double game week? Yeah, I think so. Both matches, of course, might be a little bit of a push, but I think he will. Thank you, Predators, for becoming a differential. That is massively appreciated, mate. And also for Anish for being a member for a month. Does Son as captain too much, or Isak Salah better? It is a big risk with Heung-min Son. Like I mentioned before, I think at the moment I'd lean towards him being benched. The same goes for Solanke. And we could see the likes of Odegaard start, Tell, Johnson. Yeah, I think Isak and Salah are better. And I showed you the top 10 captaincy list not so long ago, I think 10-20 minutes ago. So feel free to rewind and I'll go back to it at some stage in this stream. So I'm also going to gift out some memberships because to be honest, it has been a while with the international break as well, the lack of streams during that time frame. Yeah, I'm going to give some memberships, 5 now and then 5 towards the end. And every month I do the same thing. So we will see who is gifted the membership. So if you stay tuned until the very end, you have a good chance of winning a membership for an entire month. That means you gain early access to my videos amongst many other perks. So let's see who gets it right now. And then I'll answer some more questions. So Payman Armin, David, is that Chromek, Mohammed, and also Mark. Enjoy the memberships. And if you've got any questions, let me know in the live chat. On the wildcard, Martinez, Foden, Murphy, Areola, Savio, Gordon, bench piston 33, plus is Palmer essential? He's not essential, Mohammed, and obviously enjoy the membership now that you've got. In terms of what I prefer on the wildcard, it would be Areola, Savio, Gordon. But it is a difficult one because Gordon, for example, I don't expect to start this week. I think Savio is a rotation risk going forwards. Yeah, that is a difficult one to answer, to be fair. It's just with Foden at his price tag, I don't think he's really worth it. That's my main concern there. Yeah. If you could try to manipulate in such a way where you have Saka or Palmer instead of Foden and having both of them at the same time, that would be ideal. But otherwise, you're looking at Bruno Fernandes, Bowen, Mbumo. You are bench boosting in 33 after all. So, you know what I'd do? I'd go for Martinez, Murphy, and Bowen instead of Foden. Sells or Sar this game week? I did say Sar earlier. I'll probably stick to that, to be honest. Generally speaking, it would be Matt Sells. Paredes says Eze, Semenyo, Sar, or Murphy. Bench 1 Semenyo. You know what he's going to do now, but yeah, that is the one I'd recommend benching. Aranya says, with free hit left, what's the best game week to wildcard and bench boost? Bench boost in 32 with only 2 teams doubling feels weird. Most will go the same 6-7 players from the 2 teams. It is obviously team dependent, but I just found in a lot of my planning, both before and after activating the wildcard, that the Game Week 32 bench boost just looks really good in most scenarios, whilst with the 33 bench boost, it's kind of very specific to certain situations and teams. But because you've got the free hit, you don't need to worry too much about, oh, if I bench boost in 33, I can't navigate 34 because you've got that free hit chip intact. So yeah, that's fine. If you want to bench boost in 33, that's absolutely sound. And I've been recommending that for most of the season. For example, my chip strategy videos early in the campaign, I was saying 33 or 36. I'm now much less keen on 36, of course, which I have discussed in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I think 32 or 33 is sound. And you've got the wildcard. Yeah, add wildcard now and bench boost another 32, 33, and your selections on the wildcard will influence that. So if you go for Verbruggen instead of Areola and stuff like that, you'd favour the 32 bench boost instead. Then you can free in 34, and you've got it all sorted. Eze, Semenyo, Soto, Murphy, yeah. Munoz or Saliba? Munoz. Now, in terms of clean sheet odds, Arsenal are top, so you might disagree. But I've also got Raya in goal, so I'm not that keen on doubling up on the Arsenal defence this week. Play Gavardio or Cucurella? I'd go for Gavardio personally. But yeah, I just think Brentford will score against Chelsea. I've gone for a 2-2 draw there. Potter AM chasing rank. Gabriel to Cucurella, no free at 34. I get it. The thing with Graham Potter is I'd recommend selling him in 32 when they face Liverpool away. I just don't see any points there. They're not going to do what they did at the Emirates. No chance of it. Hi, Dylan Martinez, Raya, Munoz, Saliba, Konsa, Gavardio, Livramento. Which goalkeeper and 3 defenders to start? Thank you for membership. No worries. You can thank YouTube. They're the ones who obviously did it. But I would start Raya over Martinez. Yeah. Then I would go for Livramento, Gavardio. I'm just not that bullish on the Villa defense, but maybe it is worth kind of diversifying things a little bit. So you either go for Martinez and Saliba, or you go for Raya and Konsa. But if I had to pick one team defensively, it's Arsenal. So yeah, I'm probably going to recommend that. Raya, Saliba, Gavardio, and Livramento. Bench 1 of Sar, Savio, or Murphy? Savio. Raul says we'll be doing bench boost. Who to go for Gabriel? Already have Raya, so looking at Nico Williams. Well, if you've got Milenkovic already, then I'd be less keen on Nico Williams, but I still think he's a decent option. But yeah, I'm not trying to sit on the fence here, but you also, a lot depends on when you're free hitting or if you've got the chip in available in the first place. So if you don't have it, you might want that extra Game Week 34 player like Ait Nouri or, as you mentioned, Nico Williams. Otherwise, I just recommend Saliba. Vince Rowley says, Potter AM chasing rank. Yeah, so I covered your question just a few minutes ago, but just to kind of reiterate, with Potter, I would sell him in 32. I don't mind him in 31 and 33, but in between, you've got an extremely tough fixture there. Not a huge fan of Cucurella, but he does have a good fixture in 33 on paper against Ipswich Town. So yeah, it's a decent replacement for Gabriel. Not my favourite, but it could also... I think it's a good shout overall. Let's put it that way. Thank you, Mohammed. AM, as covered before, Glasner's my favourite, Howe's second, and Arteta's third. But yeah, I'm less keen on Glasner now than I would have been a few weeks ago. Paredes says, activate my wildcard now. I need to chase, but Glasner seems too risky. Frank versus Potter, Gameweek 31, and then Howe, 32-33. Ipswich, can't wait for these your videos, Dylan. Who's your favourite for winning FCB? No, it's probably Real Madrid, unfortunately. But Barcelona will be up there, yeah. I think they will reach the final. They've got an easier route than most. But yeah, it'd be Madrid first, Barcelona second in my kind of rankings there. In terms of the assistant manager, yeah, my favourite is Glasner, as I've said, but obviously you're not too keen, and you might want 3 Palace players anyway, so that kind of negates that possibility. I'd consider Arteta in Gameweek 33, especially if you are selling Gabriel to a different defender, that frees up the Arsenal slot. I think Arteta against Ipswich Town away and Crystal Palace at home isn't risky, in my opinion, compared to the others you've mentioned. So, yeah, I'd say Arteta. 1 free transfer, Saka for Bruno. Ultimately, I would buy Saka for Bruno, don't get me wrong. But I still like Fernandes this week. So I think I'd probably wait with that transfer and do it in 32 or 33. David says flickball. Does Gordon start? I don't think so. I covered Eddie Howe's comments earlier, and he did kind of imply that Harvey Barnes will start. Yep. The AM has been discussed extensively over the last couple of minutes, so yeah, we do have an idea. Start Sa or Savio. Sa. FPL Challenge was covered earlier. I'll go for it again very soon. Do I play a back 4 and bench Kluivert? If not, then start 3 out of Kirkes, Munoz, Gavardio, and Livramento. The problem with Kluivert is Iriola said that there's a possibility he comes off the bench, which I don't like. But I would still favour him over Kirkes. I still would this week, yeah. Is Chris Wood playing? He's getting closer to return, but we don't know that for sure yet. And the quote was covered earlier about Nuno Espirito Santo, so you can see that for yourself. But he doesn't really make it clear one way or the other if he's going to start or not. Thank you, Anish, for the super chat as well. Pope in goal, Saliba, Gavardio, Livramento, Salah, Eze, Sarr, Isak, Avanos, and Marmush, Henderson, Rogers, Cucurella, Gabriel. Play Rogers? I don't think so. I wouldn't bench any of those players for Morgan Rogers this week. Now, fixtures aren't everything, and we saw Rogers last week get 10 points against Brighton, so I'd get the temptation to start him. But yeah, I'd probably roll and bench Rogers, keep things as they are, and then you can replace Gabriel next week. Hey Dylan, how you doing? Need your urgent help. I'm using wildcard. Should I downgrade Gordon to Murphy to enable Palmer to Saka on 33? Well, Saka is cheaper than Palmer, so you don't need to downgrade Gordon to Murphy to make that possible. But yeah, I don't think Gordon starts this week, but in Gameweek 32, I would expect him to start both matches there. I take your advice, I'll keep Bruno. I think that's probably the best course of action, but it is a Manchester derby, anything can happen there, but Fernandes has done relatively well against City in home matches. I have Wood, Kluivert, Timber, Livramento, Isak, Vissa, Salah, Kirkes, Munoz, Bruno, Rogers, Kanate, Murphy, Raya, top 800k, maybe some risk on the wildcard. Yeah, I get that kind of question. Obviously, we only have a few game weeks left, but a lot of doubles and blanks, which could lead to massive swings. So I think having 1 or 2 differentials in there could be very sound. I mean, even Kanate won't be in many wildcard teams, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I'd get rid of Kluivert. Obviously, Chris Wood. You've got a good squad, by the way. It's just with the wildcard, you can make some very good changes and push it to another level. Yeah, I think Eze and Sa in the midfield, I mentioned this in the last deadline stream as well, that could be another differential sort of play if you are in the kind of market for that sort of thing. Yeah, I think Isak starts, but I'm not fully convinced. So that could be a late change in terms of the captaincy. Note Villa, players aren't essential. I think there'll be rotation, and yeah, they're just a bit of an inconsistent team as well. But to be fair, in the last couple of weeks, they've won 6 in a row across all competitions. But generally speaking, they can be quite of a streaky team. My favourite Villa player is probably Rodgers. Then you're looking at Martinez in goal. that's about it. I think if you want to take a punt, Rashford and Asensio are sound, but they're also very risky. Son vs Vanosen, you asked this earlier, Keo, and as I mentioned before, Son will be my preference, but he's also even riskier because he might not even start the game against Southampton. Watkins I'd avoid for now. He might not be first choice, so maybe he starts this week and builds up the fitness. And the most important thing is, can he start in Gameweek 32 against Southampton away, and then at least one of those fixtures in 33? If that's the case, I think he's a good punt. But I think Villa, with everyone available essentially, I'm just not a big fan of their assets with the minutes concerned. I think Rodgers is probably the best from that perspective. I'm actually picking United to beat City. Yeah, I've been all over the place with that prediction. I originally went for 2-1 City, then I was thinking 2-1 United, but I've ended up selling for a 1-1 draw. That is a difficult game to predict now. Start Sarr or Diaz? Sarr. Bench Saka, Murphy or Marino? Marino. Hey Dylan, hope you've had a great weekend so far. Likewise, Hassan. Good afternoon and good luck for the week, says Pieter. Good Newcastle journalist Craig Hope said 50 minutes ago on Twitter that he thinks Isak will be fine. Yeah, I saw his tweets, of course, relaying the Eddie Howe press conference in the first place. Yeah, he seems reliable in general, so that would be very encouraging. He is still my captain, so unless we get a reliable source indicating that Isak won't start or that he's a major doubt, I think I'll probably stick with Alexander Isak in the end. So let me just check the tweet you're talking about. Yeah, I'll show that as well on screen. Why not? And then we'll go through the different FDRs and predicted points and stuff like that one more time, since some people are asking about that. So yeah, that is the tweet that has been mentioned by Pieter. So thank you for letting me know. Dylan, with Aina out extensively, is Moreno an option? Yeah. Moreno at left back and then Nico Williams going to the right back position. That's what's probably going to happen there. I have Gordon. Should I risk starting him and have Sarr first on the bench? I'd personally just go for Sarr because I don't think Gordon will start, but I could be wrong about it. It is a higher risk, higher reward situation, you could say. Higher risk, I mean, it could lead to a massive swing either way, but I get your temptation to start Gordon. He would have been in my top 10 captaincy list quite easily if he didn't have this injury situation. Why not Murillo over Milenkovic? I think Milenkovic has more attacking threat and more FPL points for the season, but I get your point. Obviously, in Gameweek 30, Murillo got the bonus points. He was the man of the match as well, but generally speaking, I think Milenkovic is better. Why not Murphy captain? Because I think Salah, Palmer and Isak are better, which was also talked about in my captaincy list. Arham says on wildcard, Raya, Areola, Burns, Saliba, Munoz, Gavardio, Konsa, Saka, Foden, Murphy, Salah, Sarr, Isak, Marmush and Mateta. Triple captain 32, bench boost 33, and free hit 34. Good rank as well. Yeah, I like that. And once again, for those on the free hit, you can bench boost in 33 without really worrying too much. But for those without the chip, it does become very difficult to navigate that period. Varnit says, is it okay to have only Munoz and Sarr? Because instead of Murphy and Eze, I'm going for Saka or Rodgers, and instead of Mateta, I'm going for Vanosen. I think that's fine. You don't need to triple up on Newcastle and Crystal Palace. I've always said that, but because I wildcarded in Gameweek 30 and I had the double Gameweek right in front of me, that's why I went in that direction. But yeah, you can certainly do that. Which defender to bench boost out of? Well, not even bench boost. I'm obsessed with that chip now. Hey Dylan, Glasner to Howe for a -4? No, I'd keep Glasner. Terry says, Ivan Bumo, should I sell him to save? I'm guessing that's Savinho. No, I wouldn't sell him to Savinho necessarily. I think Savio could be benched in the next couple of matches. Rodgers or Rashford? Probably Rodgers from a minutes perspective. If it wasn't for that, then yeah, I'd be very tempted by Rashford and Asensio, but with everyone almost available for Villa, I think apart from Rodgers and Martinez, most of them will suffer benchings and rotation. And should I have Raya with Saliba or sell Saliba to Konsa? I wouldn't sell Saliba, but I'm less keen on the Arsenal defensive double-up, so I get your concern, but I wouldn't be selling any Arsenal defender or player right now except for Gabriel. Start 1, Kirkes, Konsa or Kilman? Probably Kirkes. Bench 1 of Kirkes, Saliba, Gavardio and Livramento. Yeah, from these 4 it would be Kirkes. Eze or Sarr, who's more likely to produce? I've said Sarr. He got 2 goals against Brighton earlier this season, but it could be Eze's time to shine. It's difficult to predict with those two. I'd favour Sarr this week a little bit more. Thanks so much, Dylan. Hope you have a good game week. Likewise, Crispy Whiskers. Raul says start 2, Dunk, Gavardio, Munoz, and Nico Williams. I'd start Munoz and Gavardio. Is Potter Frank worth an extra transfer or go straight for Glasner? Glasner. Start Elanga or Rashford. This week I would favour Rashford, but if Watkins is fit enough, could Unai Emery start Watkins and then have Rashford as an impact sub? Yes, and that's the problem of any Villa attacker, except possibly Morgan Rogers. But yeah, I would favour Rashford in this matchup, just a little bit more. Yeah, Mohamed, good stuff. Your question was highlighted just a few minutes ago. Yeah, true. Yeah, that is true. He is unavailable this week, but generally speaking, I mean, Moreno will play left back and Nico Williams right back whilst Aina is out. FPL Elmer says, really need help. Thoughts on going for Marino as an Arsenal third asset instead of Raya? I'd be more keen on that now, yeah. Marino's done a good job up front. I think he's got 5 goals in 8 games in that position. But Raya is my favourite goalkeeper over the next 3 game weeks, essentially until game week 34. But best goalkeeper duo, for me, it's Raya and Verbruggen for the game week 32 bench boost. And if you're bench boosting in 33, it's Areola instead of Verbruggen. Morning to Stapaki. Coopsy Coop says, hey Dylan, I have 3 transfers. If I wildcard, I'll still have 3 transfers next game week. Yes, that is correct. Why Isak over Salah? Better fixture, facing Leicester away. I think Isak will start, and also compared to, let's say, the general FPL population, most will captain Salah, and I think Isak will not be a differential play, but it is kind of like a maybe higher gain or a bigger gain by going in that direction. But ultimately, I think Isak will score more points than Salah if he starts. That's the key reason why. Get on the wild card, Bowen or Mbumo. Bowen, especially if you're bench boosting in 33. Start 2 of Sarr, Mbumo, Bowen, and I'm not sure who the other player is there. Start 1, Kirkers, Konsa or Kilman, says Lovro. Probably Kirkers. Lager says bench 1, Salah, Jacob Murphy, Diaz, Saka, Sarr, Mateta. Yeah, not great, but it's probably going to be Diaz here. And he has been in good form. Returns in 3 consecutive games. Hi Dylan, bench 1 from Eze, Foden or Sarr. Probably Foden. There's a chance he doesn't even start the game anyway. Start Gavardio, Dunk, Munoz, Nico Williams. Munoz. Rogers or Trossard? Thanks, man. The Gunners. Trossard scored at Goodison Park last season, but he might not even start this game. I'd go for Rogers. Ziad says bench 1 mid and 1 defender. Murphy, Sarr, Savio. Gavardio, Livramento, Saliba. I'd personally bench Saliba, but the clean sheet odds would suggest otherwise, and they'd say bench Gavardio. The same goes for expected points and stuff like that, but I'd personally bench Savio and Saliba. Hi Dylan, Gavardio, Burn, Saliba, Munoz, Kirkes, who to start? Yeah, this question's been answered in detail, but just to recap, Burn, Munoz, and Gavardio for me. Hey Dylan, planning to use AM chip? Yeah, I'd go for Glasner. Burgess versus Wolves or Robertson versus Liverpool? I don't like either, but Robertson has the attacking threat. That's the thing he's got. So it's going to be Robertson still. Start Gavardio or Saliba? Gavardio. Start 2 of Saka, Foden, Sarr. I'd bench Foden. Livramento to Konsa to do How AM, or do Amrim then into Glasner? Yeah, I'm not a big fan. It's a good question, and it's a different scenario. I would probably just go for Amrim and then Oliver Glasner. Or why not just go for Glasner in the first place? If you've got that Crystal Palace spot available, you save a transfer, and you kind of go all in on Palace there. I wildcarded Gordon in for this game week. Should I keep him for the next game week or transfer him out? As I mentioned before, I think he'll be benched against Leicester and then start in double game week 32. So you can still keep him, but he is going to be a headache this week. Yeah, from those players, I would bench Timber anyway, I think. I mean, to be fair, like if it's Saliba or Kirkes, I'd start Saliba. I think Arsenal have a better chance of a clean sheet. But, yeah, Timber is a slight risk, I get that. But I think he either starts or doesn't play at all. I bench Kirkes, yeah. Best captain, Salah, as covered before. So, yeah, what I'm going to do, since I've had this one for a while, is go back to the graphics. I'm not going to talk over them too much because I've done that already. So I'm going to answer some questions while they are playing on screen, and they're going to answer some questions in the process. So hopefully that does work very well. Start Kanate or Munoz? Munoz. Benching Son, Gavardia right now. Who do I start over Rodgers, Munoz, Livramento, Kirkes? I'd start Sarr over Rodgers and Gavardia over Kirkes, but you might feel differently. Should I sell Aina now or hold until 34? I don't have a free hit for 34, so my plan was to keep him until then and stack up 5 transfers. Yeah, he is going to be out for a while. If I had to guess, because ultimately we don't know the full information, I think Aina won't make it for the FA Cup semi-final. And then Forest will have to be a bit creative, or just go for Moreno left back and Nico Williams right back. But yeah, actually no, sorry. Nico Williams is suspended. So yeah, they need to be creative. Alex Moreno left back and then go for an out-of-position defender there, or maybe a midfielder going into the right back position. So yeah, I think Aina will be unavailable, but that is an if. I get your kind of reasoning and preference of just holding your transfers and then reassessing. If you've got good cover this week, I'd probably just keep Aina for now. But then what if you have to bench boost in 32 or 33? You will probably have to make the transfer then anyway. So yeah, there are a few circumstances that play a part in what you should do, but ultimately, I think Aina will be out. A big Salah return scares me. Yeah, but as you say, he's not been the same as before. Yeah. The thing is with Salah, he can always return in any given game. I think he'll score against Fulham, but I think Isak could score a brace or a hat-trick. I mean, it's a close one between those two. I mean, obviously you saw the... Let's see. Oh, this is still up to date. Yeah, you can see the captaincy list on screen. There's not much in it. I'm also going to play the injury updates on screen, and very soon I'll play the team selection graphics from yesterday. But of course, you can see all the commentary and analysis in that video. So yeah, that's just going to help people, you know, kind of piece things together with their decisions, who to bench, who to captain, who to buy in, you know, what to do with certain players, and also what I'm doing with my team. And yeah, just knowing the full picture. Captain Salah Isak, you just saw on screen. It's completely up to you. If you don't want to risk with Isak, I understand. Who's the best for the run 31-33, Rashford or Savio? I'd lean towards Rashford, but I think both of them are rotation risks. Would you start Raya or Martinez? It would still be Raya, but in most scenarios, for example, if it was like, well, definitely Nick Pope, something like that, or possibly Gavardio in that defense, I'd go for something like Raya and Gavardio and diversify it a little bit. But yeah, I think it's a very close call, but I'd favour Raya. Start Rodgers and Konsa or Munoz and Sarr. Munoz and Sarr. The man, the myth, the legend says, hola Dylan, ¿pondrías a Elanga en lugar de Semenyo en esta jornada? Creo que sí, pero Semenyo es muy difícil en términos de anticipar cuándo va a anotar un gol o hacer una asistencia porque, no sé, no es muy consistente. I think Morato in Aina, yeah, that's a good shout. You wouldn't have Marmush or on the captaincy list? That is a good point. I think if Heung-min Son does miss out, because that's a kind of like big risk in that list, I think Son might not even start the game. You could drop him out of that equation, go for another Spurs player, or have Marmush in that top 10. But I think Fernandes is my favourite captaincy option from the derby. Hi mate, start Semenyo or Sarr? Sarr. Gordon and Watkins, they are fit, yes, but they have been nursing injuries, so they might not start the game, as mentioned before. Ivan Bumo, should I sell him to Bowen, Foden, or Rodgers for double game week 33? It would be Bowen. There, Terry, yeah. Omara says, thoughts on this wild card? I like the Marino pick, and by the way, for those that are kind of like wondering what... Let's see, by the way. Okay, yeah, that's all good. Yeah, so... Yeah, for those that are kind of like wondering about these differential plays, I think Marino could be one of them. I would not recommend Maddison, though. He might start against Southampton and do well, but long term, I just wouldn't recommend any Spurs assets. And Maddison has been a massive rotation risk this season. Goalkeepers are fine. They rotate fairly well. Good defence, I have to say that. And the double up in the Newcastle one. Well, actually, you've got a triple up. Yeah, wait. Okay. So no. Okay, I read that wrong. You got Burn and Pope and then Isak. Okay, that's fair enough. No midfielder. The players I wouldn't go for in the wildcard are Visser. I think Elanga's fine, but I wouldn't go for Maddison. And Keane. Yeah, I wouldn't go for Keane. The rest is absolutely sound, though. Bruno and Gabriel to constant Saka for a -4, or just do Gabriel out this week? Yeah, just do Gabriel out this week. And if you've got the depth, you can even just wait another week, because Gabriel's already gone down in price, so you don't need to worry too much about that. Start Savio or Gvardiol or Sarr. Sarr. Start Kivior or Konsa. Kivior. Do you think Timber's going to start? Yes. I'm not fully confident, but I think he will. And Arsenal are down to the bare bones in that position now. Hi Dylan, which two would you start from Eze, Sarr and Murphy? Sarr and Murphy, but I don't like benching any of them. Palmer or Saka for the next two? Palmer, which is why I kept him on the wildcard, but so far it's not looking good. Who should I go on the wildcard, Livramento or Burn? Livramento for me, but Burn is on 8 yellow cards. It's not a massive risk. You just need to go the next 2 Premier League games unscathed in terms of getting those 2 bookings. Otherwise, he will serve a 2-game suspension. Hi Dylan, just joined. Start Gvardiol or Saliba? Gvardiol. Sarr or Savinho? Sarr. Any news I need to know? Not really news, but Craig Hope, who is a reliable journalist when it comes to Newcastle, believes that Isak will start the game. He should be fine. Well, to be fair, he said, I think Isak will be fine. I don't want to misquote him. I want to go Amrin first, just for the bonus game. Have a bit of fun with it. Glasner doesn't have any bonus versus Brighton, and that's a tough match. I get that. It's just about saving a transfer, but that's good. If you have enough free moves available, then I'm not against that. No, David, I'm not. Timber, Gvardiol, Dean, Gay, start 2. Gvardiol and Timber. Konsa or Kanate? Kanate. Sarr or Mateta? This week I have a slight preference for Sarr. That's why he's 8th in my Captaincy list and Mateta isn't there, but that can go either way. Bench 1 of Gvardiol, Timber, Munoz. I'm starting Raya. Yeah, I'd bench Timber. Gvardiol or Saliba? Gvardiol. Who should I go on the wild card? Livramento or Burn? Covered. Start 2, Livramento, Kluivert, Kirkes or Mbumo? Livramento, and I go for Mbumo. Yeah. Thoughts on my wildcard, says Weiseng. Should I buy Gordon for Barnes in the future? Yeah, Barnes is a nice 1-week punt. I'd only go for him if you got enough free transfers available, like 3 or 4. Even with 2, maybe you can push for it, but with 1, it does make things very tight. But good squad overall. I like most of it. Savio rotation risk, but if he does start, he's decent. I think Luca Dean could be a big headache for you in 32 and 33, so I'd suggest changing him. I'm assuming you're looking to bench boost in 33, or perhaps you're not really looking at the 32 bench boost, so that's fair enough. But yeah, I'd consider those changes. Raya in goal, then who would you play in defence? Saliba, Gvardiol, Munoz and Burn. I'd drop Saliba in that case, yeah, as covered multiple times. Good luck as well, Twisted Parky. Sarr Mateta. Sarr, as I just mentioned, -4 to bring in Isak for Ivanosen. I'd personally do it, but it's risky. He is yellow flagged. Start 1 of Munoz or Livramento. This week I'd go for Livramento. Start 2 of Savio, Sarr and Saka. I'd bench Savio. I meant to switch from Burn to Livramento before last deadline. It's not a big deal. There's not much in it. Both of them have 0 goals and 0 assists in the Premier League this season. Gabriel to share. Decent pick. Also a differential in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, I think Timber will start, but I'm not fully confident. Let's put it that way, but I think he will. Bench 1 of Rogers, Semenyo, Visser. I would bench Semenyo. Start 2 of Savio, covered. I'm going AM Frank. I've seen a lot of people mention that, so it's not a bad shout. It really isn't. Wildcard draft without the free hit. My team is messed up. That would require... Let's see. Let me just show you these team selection graphics first for those that haven't seen it. Of course, like I said, I mentioned, or I go into detailed commentary about all of the things that happen, like the Game Week 30 performance and also my transfer plans and my kind of reasoning for it. But yeah, I'll build a team as well. Don't worry about that for no free hit. It's going to be very similar to my current squad and also a Game Week 32 or 33 bench boost team. But yeah, with no free hit, it is very important to think about how you're going to navigate that blank without the use of that very important chip there. So I'd go for something like this. Let's actually... Let's go to that. Let's go wildcard. So yeah, those transfers you see, or that you saw on screen, Rodgers and Saliba, they will likely come in for Game Week 32. So roll the transfer this week, and then have 2 free moves available for Game Week 32. And yeah, then I can bolster my double Game Week 32 and 33 prospects. That is the plan. But yeah, with Gabriel's injury, that has obviously put a spanner in the works, and keeping Kluivert on the wildcard was a mistake in my opinion. But there you go, I've made my bed. The rest of it I'm still fairly happy with, so I'd still wildcard to something extremely similar. You can see the expected points on screen, and you can let me know your thoughts as well. But let's now go into fpl.team and start building this wildcard squad. So if you are free hitting, if you aren't free hitting in 34 and you need a way to navigate that blank, Verbruggen's decent by the way, but I'd probably favour Areola in that case, or Jose Sarr. I'd also go for 8 Nuri instead of Gabriel. And for Justin Kluivert, I think Elanga's probably decent. If not, you could go for Morgan Rodgers, but of course he does blank in 34. He looks pretty good though for the next couple. So with this sort of structure, and of course you'd start Livramento, in my opinion, I'd also go for Jacob Murphy. I'd also bench Elanga here, which you might disagree with. 8 Nuri though. You could feasibly start him this week. And it's between Munoz and Gavardio. I'd probably favour Munoz a little bit more, but there's not much in it. Captaincy, yeah, Isak for me, Salah vice, but we'll talk about that as well again in a short while. So with that wildcard squad in 32, you've got a very solid platform. So let's see what else you could do. And by the way, if you've got the bench boost, I mean, that is a very strong bench boost. Of course, if you are planning to bench boost in 33, you might want an extra, let's say an extra West Ham player like Jared Bowen. Of course, having Areola there away to Liverpool looks pretty bad. So remember, you can go for Verbruggen if you are looking to bench boost in 32. So you will have some benching dilemmas. I'd definitely go for 8 Nuri there on the bench. So let's put Gavardio in there for now. If not Milenkovic. Yeah, I think Milenkovic would be the most appealing one. So yeah, that is a pretty decent platform. You're going to have bench points in most of those game weeks. Game week 33, you can start Gavardio here. To be fair, if I'm looking at Milenkovic, Livramento and 8 Nuri, they don't look great for game week 33. And also, to be fair, we've only got one Arsenal player. So I think this is what I do. Let me get rid of Palmer from the get-go. Let's go for Saka. And this is how I'd go about it. So yeah, game week 33, you can captain Saka. If not, Marmush. Mateta's another good option. That is a decent teamish, I'd say. Elanga over Murphy, I'd probably favour a little bit more. And then, yeah, for game week 34, you can have something like this. 8 Nuri in for Gavardio. We can also go for Livramento, Murphy, Areola. For game week 34 specifically, I think having 2 or 3 Wolves players looks really good, but it's not something you'd want to have in the long term. But, for example, by that stage, with multiple free transfers at your disposal, you can sell Jean-Philippe Mateta to Matheus Cunha. You can also do Saka to Cole Palmer, and then, yeah, you might have even more transfers available than me. You can then use one more free move to displace Marmush, who you might want to keep, but you bench him, go for another midfielder instead. But that is a very solid platform in my opinion. So triple up in Newcastle. You've got 2 Nottingham Forest players. You've got Areola, who's probably the weak link of this squad. You've got 2 Wolves players at home to Leicester. Cole Palmer at home to Everton. You might want to go for a Chelsea option. Maybe Nicholas Jackson if you want to feel some pain. But yeah, there's many different ways of tackling it. But as you just saw now, that gives you a solid platform for the doubles and also blank Gameweek 34. And the more free transfers you have, the merrier, because you can navigate and kind of go for 1 week punts and then switch and move between those game weeks and bolster your team as you go along. So hopefully that has helped you out a little bit. And yeah, we're now back to my FPL squad. Decent centre-back to get to replace Gabriel. Saliba is a very simple one, but a lot depends on your chip strategy. So if you're bench boosting in 33, Wan-Bissaka is decent, maybe Kilman. For 32, you're looking at Estupinian and Dunk. Punjabi says Dylan is Raya and Jose Sarr a good combination. Yes, especially if you don't have the free hit in 34, because Jose Sarr faces Leicester at home and Raya blanks. Start 2 of Livramento, Munoz, Milenkovic, Elanga and Murphy. Livramento, and I would go for Murphy. Bench Munoz or Saliba. I'd bench Saliba personally, but in terms of clean sheet odds, Arsenal are top this week. Rodgers or Sarr? Sarr. Do I do Gabriel to Saliba? And if so, do I start with a Munoz, Gavardio or Sarr? Yeah, Gabriel to Saliba is a good transfer, but you could do it next week, which is what I'm planning to do myself. If you've got the depth, let's say Milenkovic is your kind of backup alongside Gavardio and Munoz, you don't need to buy Saliba now. And also, you're an Everton fan. You might back Everton to win or to score a goal, which I'm actually doing myself. So, yeah, I'm less keen on Saliba now, and I missed out on that price change overnight, of course. Bruno, Mbeumo, Murphy start 2. It would be Bruno and Murphy, but I don't like benching any of them. It's Isak captain, mate. If you also rewind the stream, you can see my captaincy list and all those graphics. Y all says my team. Yeah, good stuff. I'm going to bench boost in 33, free at 34. Absolutely fine. The things I'd kind of reconsider are Enzo Fernandez. I know he scored the winner against Tottenham. I still don't like him as an FPL asset. He played very well against Brazil for Argentina over the international break, but I think there are better options elsewhere. That includes, well, you've got some of those options already, like Elanga and Murphy, but also possibly Sarr. And also Eze. So, yeah, I'd definitely consider changing Enzo. The rest is very good. If no free at 34, you've got to get triple Newcastle and Salah. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a very good point. Start Raya or Martinez. Raya. Can't use AM chip with wildcard, right? No. You can't use 2 chips in the same game week, and the assistant manager is active for 3 game weeks, so if you activate it now, you can't use any chips until game week 34. Mateta to Solanke, looking to do Glasner. Let's see, 1 second. Let's see, Mateta Solanke. I wouldn't go for Solanke this week, and with Spurs players, I'd avoid them. They could be good 1 week punts this week, but beyond that, I think they're massive risks. And even this week, to be honest, with Solanke, I think he might not start. Looking to do Glasner for Gameweek 32, and we'll need to transfer 1 Palace player out. Yeah, that is a bit concerning. Maybe Eddie Howe could be a better solution for you if you've got a Newcastle spot available, or Mikel Arteta, for example. Expected doubles for 36, Villa and Spurs, but I mentioned this multiple times before. You would need Spurs to reach the Europa League semi-final and to beat Eintracht Frankfurt, and for Aston Villa to reach the FA Cup final. But yeah, the other... Let's just go for it now. So we have 12 minutes left until the deadline. Let's be sure to lock things in. Drop a like on this stream. Let's get this to 200. It'd be greatly appreciated. And if we do reach that goal, I'll be gifting 5 more memberships. I gifted 5, of course, earlier in this live stream. So yeah, for Gameweek 36, the other possible doubles we could get. So yeah, the more possible ones would be Crystal Palace facing Tottenham, and either... Actually, no. This is out of date, isn't it? This is out of date. 1 second. Yeah, not Crystal Palace. Let's see. There was an updated graphic, so I'm going to refer to that instead, just so we have the full picture. All right, so Yeah, for double, yeah, for 36, Crystal Palace apparently have a 42% chance facing Tottenham and Wolves. Wolves will be at home. Aston Villa could face Bournemouth away and Tottenham at home. Bournemouth could face Aston Villa at home and Man City away. Tottenham would face Crystal Palace at home and Aston Villa away, potentially. The most likely double, by the way, in 36 would be for Man City and Bournemouth, because the projections do indicate that City will reach the FA Cup final. That means they blank in 37 and then double in 36. As for Wolves, they could face Brighton at home and Crystal Palace away, and the less likely doubles would be for Forest and West Ham. So Forest would face Leicester at home and West Ham away, whilst the Hammers would have Man United away and Nottingham Forest at home. So yeah, I might show you an updated graphic in like a future video and stream. Start Savio or Sarr? Sarr. Should I play Raya or Saliba? Yeah, as mentioned before, Gavardio, and you can see it with my team as well. For FPL Challenge, which I'll talk about very soon, I mean, I've kind of covered that already, but I've gone for Pickford and Pope as my goalkeepers, Gavardio, Borro, Nuri, Trippier captain, and Livramento. I think Borro will start against Southampton, but in general, there will be a lot of rotation there. That is my current setup. I've gone for a 1-0 Everton win, which is why I've gone for Jordan Pickford between the sticks. So that is my current thinking right now. But let's go back to my FPL team. A late transfer is possible, but I'd say quite unlikely in the grand scheme of things. Is Saka starting? I think he will, but I did cover the quote earlier from Mikel Arteta when asked about that, and it's not set in stone. Yeah, the doubles will be clear after the FA Cup semi-finals, mate. So those that reach the FA Cup final will then likely, well, they'll blank in 37 in all likelihood, and then double in 36. Chris Wood is not definitively out, but he is a doubt, of course. Start 2, Elanga, Saka, Mateta. Saka and Mateta. Good idea to start Robinson and Mbumo? Not really. Mbumo's fine. I think that's a good idea, but not Robinson. Would you start Rashford? Possibly, yeah. Ben White spotted with the squad in contention to start. That's good news. Arsenal need it because it's been an injury-ridden season, and I can't wait for it to be over. Livramento, Kirkis, Saliba, Munoz, Milenkovic start 3. Livramento, Munoz, and Saliba. How shall I use my system manager? Difficult for me to say, mate, because I don't know which other chips you've got available, but in isolation, it looks really good now. Between Game Weeks 31 and 33, you cover back-to-back double Game Weeks in 32, and of course for 33. Sells or Sarr for this game week? Slight preference there for Sarr. Isak or Salah captain? Yeah, I don't know about the percentages about both players, but I put a poll out on my channel, and Isak was top. Play 2 of Sarr, Rodgers, Gavardio, Munoz, Sarr, and I'd probably favour Rodgers. Sarr or Rodgers, Sarr. Sell Gabriel for Konsa. Not a big fan, but in terms of Villa defenders, Konsa is probably the least worst. And Martinez in goal is the most likely to start all of the games. I think he will, unless he gets injured. And then Rodgers in the midfield. Yeah, same here, Goldhead. That is my current plan as well. Salah Isak captain position is hard. I get that. I can't believe I am starting free Palace. Oh yeah, you're a Brighton fan, of course, but maybe you can jinx them, so you can feel good either way. Start Colwill or Castagna? Colwill. Start Rodgers or Savio? Rodgers. Are there any leaks about whether Saka will start? No. Not at the moment, but I think Saka will start, and I'd bench Savinho from those 3, even though I think Savio will start against United. Sarr or Rodgers? Sarr. That's been covered to death. I hope we beat Palace 3-2 or something with Palace players returning. I mean, yeah, that's the best of both worlds, but I'll be honest, like, even if I get points from it, I'd just rather Arsenal keep clean sheets and win to 0, basically. Hey Dylan, who should I start, Munoz or Kirkes? Munoz for me. Son is a big risk. He might not start the game, and to be honest, I don't think he will. But if I knew for sure he'd start, he might even be like top 3 captaincy options. So it's a double-edged sword. It's a high-risk, high-reward scenario. Saliba or Gavardio? For this week, it's Gavardio. Kirkes, I think, will start, yeah. White Isak captain. He's facing Leicester. He's one of the best strikers in the league. I think he's got a very high ceiling. I mean, yeah, that's kind of self-explanatory. Thoughts on Palace assets overall? Yeah, they were very disappointing against Crystal Palace. Sorry, against Crystal Palace. Against Southampton. I think 2 is the sweet spot probably, but because they double in 32 and 33, That's why a lot of us are gravitating towards the triple up. Sell Robinson or Kirkes? Robinson. Harry says, good luck, everyone. Yeah, I just didn't see your message. If you put it now, I could maybe review it quickly, but ultimately a lot of wildcards are the same, even if you have the free hit or not, but a few things would obviously change as a result. Yeah, I think Isak will start. Otherwise, I wouldn't captain him. Start one of Palmer or Sarr. Palmer. Hopefully Palmer gets a return this week. If his price lowers too much, I'll get priced out, says Chavain. No, you should be fine. I don't think he'll drop in price enough to basically have Saka be more expensive, but maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully people aren't that kind of trigger happy with Cole Palmer. So I'm having a look on X and seeing if there are any injury updates or anything we can really see, but no, I think there's nothing really to talk about there. Of course, someone mentioned, I think it was Insane Gamer, about Ben White spotted with the squad and in contention to start, which is a massive boost for Arsenal. I would start Sarr there, Cooker. Have Raya, who to bench, Gavardio, Timber and Munoz. I'd bench Timber. Yeah, I just mentioned the Arsenal news that we do have, it seems, but there's nothing else. I have made no transfers, and the plan is to make none and roll. I'll sell Gabriel and Kluivert if necessary. With Kluivert, I'm waiting to see. If he does make an appearance against West Ham, I'm actually happy to keep him against Fulham. But with Gabriel, he will be sold, and the likely replacement is Saliba. But I'll probably do it closer to the next deadline, because with the way Arsenal season is going, I'd rather make transfers as close as possible to the next deadline. Yeah, from those three, it'd be Sarr, mate. Why Livramento over Burn? There's not much in it, mate. They're both with 0 goals, 0 assists. Burn has the slight suspension risk, but as long as he can go the next 2 Premier League games without 2 bookings, he'll be fine. But there is a chance he does it, and then he misses 2 Premier League games. I wouldn't bench Saka. Who should I have first on the bench to get subbed in, just in case Isak doesn't play? Kluivert or Kirkes? It'd be Kluivert for me, but there is the possibility Kluivert comes off the bench, which I talked about earlier. Thanks, Dylan. You've been a great help this season. Great work. Everyone liked the stream ASAP. Thank you, Path. Very kind words, and all the best for Gameweek 31. So yeah, let's try to get this stream to 200 likes. It would be greatly appreciated. Let's just see where we're at the moment. So yeah, let's get these up. Even if you're on your way out, that would also be a massive help in the algorithm. Saliba or Gavardio. Depends on the context of the question, but for this week only, I do favour Gavardio a little bit more, especially for those that have Raya in goal already. Start 2 of Trippier, Konate and Gavardio. I'd start Trippier and Gavardio, but there's not much in it between the Croatian and Konate. Start Bruno or Mateta. A slight preference for Bruno there. Yeah, Sarr over Savinho, as mentioned multiple times. Savio or Rogers, it'd be Rogers. Konsa or Pau Torres, I'd favour Konsa. Should I start Beto or should I sacrifice one of my starting 5 midfielders of Elanga, Salah, Palmer, Murphy and Enzo? Maybe Enzo, but I wouldn't be sacrificing Palmer, Salah, Murphy, and even with Elanga, yeah. Bench 1, Sarr, Palmer, Saka, Marmoush, Mateta, Isak, Murphy. I don't like that, but unfortunately I'd probably bench Mateta. Marmoush or Sarr? I favour Sarr a little bit this week, but I like Marmoush a lot and I don't want to bench him. Saka is 7th in my Captaincy list. I think that will be a low-scoring game. Yeah, Ross, I just mentioned that. Apparently Ben White has been spotted with the squad. I haven't seen any other news. Hey Dylan, I'm 90 points ahead on top of my mini-league. I'm willing to bet on Rashford or Asensio. Yeah, look, if that's your main priority and you want to have a bit of fun with it, I'd probably favour Rashford with the form he's in. He's a very streaky player, but Asensio's been brilliant for his entire loan spell. I just covered that, I'm your master, yeah. Start Bowen or Sarr. Sarr, once again, Sarr over Rogers. Bruno or Mateta. Bruno. Konsa or Munoz. Munoz. Elanga or Sarr to start. Ismaila Sarr. Jan SP says start Saka or Rogers. Saka. Would you start Vanossen or Sarr? Sarr. Munoz, Nuri Gavardio or Livramento. One to bench. I would bench. I think in this case, I'd look to bench Gavardio. Yeah, Saka's 7th for my captaincy list, so I think there are better options. What Arsenal defender apart from Saliba? Jurian Timber. His injury isn't too serious, apparently. Milenkovic will burn. It's going to be burned this week. Have Raya, start Munoz or Saliba. Munoz. And I would start Sarr. Start Gavardio or Sarr. It's been Sarr. I've been very clear on that all stream. Good luck as well. Numlocks. And I'm also locked in, it seems. So I've got Raya in goal, away to Everton. Munoz, Gavardio and Livramento. Jacob Murphy, Sarr, Palmer and Salah, who is my vice-captain. Marmoush, Mateta and Isak with the armband. And a bench of Verbruggen, Kluivert, Milenkovic and Gabriel. This means I've got 2 free transfers for double Gameweek 32, and the bench boost will be active next week. So my plan is to sell Gabriel to Saliba, but I'm also in the market for other defenders. I don't think there are any particular standouts. And if needed, I will sell Kluivert to a midfielder like Rodgers, and that will sell my bench boost. So yeah, the deadline has closed, but, you know, maybe this will give reassurance or something like that. Rayo Martinez, I've said this many times, so some of these questions have been answered already. I'd go for Raya. Timber, Cucurella, Timber. Will Watkins start? I wouldn't rule it out, to be fair. But I think what people are hoping for with Ollie Watkins is that he will start the Southampton game and then for double Gameweek 33. But at the moment, I lean towards no. Bench 1, says Yusuf. Yeah, I think this was pretty much highlighted anyway. I said Mateta, but I don't like it. Foden or Sarr, it's going to be Ismail Sarr. Is Szoboszlai worth it? No, not for me. Well, yeah, Punjabi, I've been clear on that all week and all stream, so you know my answer on that. Munoz or Saliba, own Raya. Yeah, this week it would have been Munoz. You also saw that on screen. A lot of the questions, of course, can also be basically answered with the graphics and also with the team that you see on screen. Murphy or Gordon? Murphy this week. I'm not completely against Saka captain, but he's 7th on my list, and I think Arsenal-Everton will be low scoring. I'm actually backing an Everton win, and I hope I'm wrong about that. Yeah, Wei Sing, I did cover your question earlier. I did say Konsa for me. I don't like either, though. ZX Trinix says start 1 and bench order for the other 3. Well, doesn't matter now, but I would start Sarr, and then I think I'd have Rodgers first on the bench, Munoz second, and Agbadu third, so basically the way you've ordered it. Mateta or Elanga? Mateta. Start Sarr or Savio? Sarr. FPL Challenge says easy. Okay, so Borro, 8 Nuri, Murillo, Munoz, Saliba, with Pope and Sarr in goal. Yeah, I'll wait and see. I mean, it's a lot to keep track of to kind of, after every lineup, then refer back to your FPL Challenge team. Salah captain lock says easy. Bench sells Rodgers, Konsa, Fass, says Vonamir. And the wild card is Henderson, Burn, Gay, Gavardio, Murphy, Son captain, Saka, Salah, Ivanos and Marmoush, Isak. I like the team a lot, and if Son starts, that could be a huge play. I think it is risky though, and I said this in my video where I recommended Son as a 1-week punt, and now I'm less keen and also confident about him starting, but I hope it does go well for you, even though I wouldn't mind a Southampton win, of course. Good luck as well, MMK. My vice-captain, Marmoush, says Baraf. Locked in, says Punjabi. I played my wildcard now in the last few minutes. I also did that in the last stream, and whilst I'm happy with the wildcard overall, there's a few things, of course, that in hindsight I would have changed, like Kluivert. Why are people not buying Bournemouth mids? I have Semenyo because of Kluivert injury. Well, Semenyo is 1 yellow card away from suspension, and also with Bournemouth, they have no double game week. They do feature in 34, but if you've got the free hit, they're not really a priority right now. I think Kluivert is the best Bournemouth asset, and apart from that, you're looking at Kirkers or Howson. The rest are disposable. I don't like Semenyo that much. He might do well against West Ham this week, but I don't recommend him long term. Hi Dylan, long time no see. Could you give suggestions on which week to use bench boost, wildcard, and triple captain? So yeah, I would bench boost in 32, triple captain 33, and wildcard, well yeah, maybe in 34 or 35, since you don't have the free hit. Joyton Fernandez says, hi Dylan, I've played my wildcard, but I've chosen Strand Larsen, Wan-Bissaka and Szoboszlai instead of Mateta, Gavardio, Elanga, and I'm planning to bench boost in 32. Yeah, the team is good enough, and I still like Elanga and, in terms of the players you pick, Strand Larsen and Wan-Bissaka, I'm just not on board with Szoboszlai, but maybe when you need him, he'll step up for you because he does have a high ceiling, to be fair to him. Thank you, Kuka, and good luck. I have Vissa, but his Wood's injury, Wood has a hat-trick. Yeah, on the wild card, I wouldn't have gone for either. But Vissa is still fixture-proof. Yamal or Barcola? I'll cover this in the UCL Fantasy deadline stream on Tuesday. But yeah, it's going to be Yamal for me. 90% of FPL managers will captain Isak this week. I disagree. It's not going to be 90%, especially in terms of the overall managers. In terms of those on X and YouTube, maybe it will be a high percentage going for Isak, but I'll be honest, I don't look at what other people are doing. I just do my own plan, and unfortunately, a lot of times it seems like groupthink is a thing, but I don't actually actively seek out my captaincy decisions or transfers based on what other people are doing. It just happens to be the case that a lot of people have similar ideas, so maybe I need to think outside the box more often in terms of the end of this season and going into the next campaign. Patra, I'm going with Frank and Boomer and Vissa. Really hope that the boss gets the job done. Yeah, all the best to you. I wouldn't mind a Palmer return, though. I probably need it. But from a non-FPL perspective, I think a Brentford win looks pretty good. Change the captain from Isak to Salah seconds before the deadline. We'll see how that goes. Is Saka good? I have bought him. Yeah, Saka is good, but for this week, I'm not that keen on him. I think the best time to buy him is Gameweek 32. I have Murphy, 2 from Crystal Palace and 2 from Newcastle for double Gameweek, but I don't have any City players for the double. I'd highly recommend Marmoush and maybe Gavardio if you can. I've taken that risk too. Son as captain, says Anish. All the best there. Dylan, why are you choosing for Everton win? Come on, be realistic, a draw 1-1. Well, I mean, is there a massive difference between a 1-1 and a 1-0? Not really. I have actually thought about a 1-1 draw, but does that really make too much of a difference? No, because in both cases, Arsenal concede a goal, so that means no clean sheet. The likes of Saliba, Raya will likely blank. Maybe Saka gets a goal, or whoever, Marino, but it doesn't really change much, if I'm being honest. It's not like I'm saying Arsenal up against Leicester. Oh yeah, I think Leicester are going to get a draw or a win, which is like a really outlandish prediction. Arsenal have a terrible record at Goodison Park, let's not forget that. Thoughts on my wildcard: Dylan, Cesadindra, Raya, Munoz, Saliba, Livramento, Salah, Saka, Sarr, Murphy, Marmoush, Mateta, Isak. Most wildcards look the same, mate, if I'm being honest, so yeah. I think what really kind of determines it is when you're looking to bench boost, you say 33, so that's absolutely fine. It's a well thought out bench boost, but and also wildcard squad, but if I'm being honest, a lot of our teams will be similar. So I'm obviously going to feel it's going to be good because I've got an identical team. I don't understand the lack of love for Share. It's mainly a budget perspective, I think, but if money is no issue, yeah, Share looks pretty good and might be fairly underrated in the grand scheme of things. I'm going to go to my FPL Challenge squad and probably include him, actually, over Livramento. And keep Trippier if he does start, and hopefully I do remember to change my team when the lineups are out. But yeah, that's a good suggestion. I'm on board with it for FPL Challenge, but I just don't think Share is worth an extra 0.9 million over Livramento overall. But a goal would maybe change our thinking there, and he does have that higher ceiling. Best time for assistant manager now. Once again, for these sort of questions, I like to know the context about your other chips, because that is pretty much the determining factor. Because I could easily just say, yeah, use it now. 32, you get back-to-back double game weeks, but then again, you do have the blank in 34, which makes it a bit more awkward, but it's still 5 fixtures in a matter of 3 game weeks, so in isolation, it would be now. Dylan, wouldn't have made sense to go Konate over Milenkovic, with Liverpool having better fixtures and Aina being out for Forest. Well, I went for Milenkovic before Aina's injury. This was the Game Week 30 wildcard. And I still think Forest... I mean, do they have a better defence than Liverpool? That is debatable. They both feature in Game Week 34. But I still think without Aina, it's more about how Forest are structured defensively, so they'll still keep a lot of clean sheets in my opinion. But it is a good point. It's a good question. I get what you're saying. I still prefer Milenkovic though. And Konate is more injury prone. On top of that, Milenkovic also has more attacking threat, in my opinion. It's not going to be a massive difference, but he's more likely to score a goal. Adil puts his wildcard squad. Thoughts, very last minute team with not too much thought. Yeah, but it's going to be identical to a lot of wildcard teams. And yeah, bench boost 33. I get the thought process there. I like the look of it. 3 at 34. You're in a good position. Regretting decisions about transfers or using wildcards or chips? Yeah, I mean, probably, but I don't want to think about it too much, and I need to like go through every single week and then think about it, which I might do at the end of this season. But yeah, I think in a lot of cases, I've actually liked the decision, but not the outcome. So it is what it is, right? Hoping Barnes to get something. I like him a lot for this week. I think he'll start. Long term, though, I think he's a sell. Joy Tupus's wildcard team. Yeah, how is it? Absolutely fine as well. You've got a few differentials in there, like Szoboszlai, Strand Larsen, which you mentioned before, Wan-Bissaka. Bench boost next week. So for Gameweek 32, if that's the case and you're bench boosting in 32, then there's a few picks I would question, like Wan-Bissaka. But in general, it's very good. I played wildcard. Why all my free transfers are gone? They shouldn't be. No, if you had free transfers before activating the wildcard, you'll still have free. Yep, you can see my challenge team on screen. Wildcard 34, 35, not sure about it, but we will see. We'll have more information on the upcoming blanks and doubles in 35, right? Yeah, so after the FA Cup, by Gameweek 34, that's when obviously the FA Cup semi-finals take place, which is why those teams are blanking. And once we find out the FA Cup finalists and their respective opponents, of course in 37 they will blank, and that will likely be moved to 36. So by 34 we should have a clearer picture. So wildcarding then will set you up pretty nicely for the rest of the season. When to play free hit last chip for me? It is team dependent, but in most scenarios I'd recommend 34. How has Ruud still not got a sack? I don't know, it seems like Leicester have kind of accepted their fate a little bit, I guess. But it's been a terrible run. He's only beaten West Ham and Tottenham Hotspur. Leicester 0, Newcastle 3, says Twisted Parky. And you put your other predictions there. I'm also going to show it on screen now, so we can kind of compare them. So yeah, I've gone for the same Newcastle scoreline. Everton 0, Arsenal 0. That's another scoreline I actually was kind of thinking about. So either 1-1, 0-0, or 1-0 Everton. Hopefully Arsenal can just get the job done. My edge to 1-0 Arsenal, star boy. Crystal Palace 1, Brighton 1. Ipswich 2, Wolves 1. West Ham 0, Bournemouth 1. Aston Villa 1, Forest 1. Brentford 2, Chelsea 2. Yep, same here. Fulham 1, Liverpool 2. Spurs 3, Southampton 0. And United 1, City 2. Yeah, some games are quite tough to call this week and it can go either way. Well, Arsenal, my local team, and also just from a young age, I just got attached to them. You know, you watch a team, you just know, there's a connection and you're like, yeah, that's my squad. And obviously it did help that back then Arsenal were the best team in the country. And even when they moved out of the Emirates, moved out of Highbury to the Emirates, they still play some exciting football, the most entertaining at least. And yeah, it's just, they had top quality players throughout, a lot of like technicians, intelligent players. So that probably helps a lot. Arsene Wenger's style of play. There's a lot of reasons behind it, but I think the fact that Arsenal are my local team is a big factor. Wait for Vardy to score against Newcastle? Hopefully not. I also believe Alex Moreno will be the Aina sub, not allowed to play against Villa 2. Yeah, but long term, of course, Moreno will start with Nico Williams right back. For the FA Cup semi-final, though, if Aina isn't available, Forest will be in a precarious situation with no right back, with Williams suspended as well. 36-38 is a great AM window. There will be table bonus opportunities when teams have something to play for. Play teams that are on the beach. Also, the 36 double. Yeah, just the Parky, just a joke. Yeah. Cyril with a nice joke there. I almost fell for that. Hearing Sterling starts, I don't know if it's reliable. Well, it does make a little bit of sense because, Arsenal's priority is on the Champions League and Sterling is suspended for that anyway. I don't know what to do for the Gameweek 32 benching dilemma with the singles and doubles both looking really good. Yeah, that's what I mean. Even for those that are bench boosting in 33, they kind of look at their team in 32 and think, I could bench boost this week. Like, for a lot of people, it kind of feels that way. So I'm quite happy to get rid of the chip now. So hopefully there aren't any more injuries or suspensions. Otherwise, that kind of ruins my bench boost plans. This is the first season I rage quitted the game. Multiple injuries and avoiding Forest, plus not permanent captaining Salah. Very frustrating season. Yeah, I get it. The captaincy has been very restrictive. On one end, you can kind of focus on your transfers and being different with your kind of selections elsewhere. But yeah, there have been aspects of this season that haven't been that enjoyable. I do agree with you there. I sold Isak for Strand Larsen and captained him over Salah, playing risky, but wanted to bring in Howe as the assistant manager. You sold Isak? Wow, good luck. But I think Isak will play. Well, Wei saying you asked this in the last stream, it definitely hasn't gotten closer now. No, and if any advancements have been made, they'll be behind the scenes, not reported, and we have no idea about it. So my answer would be no. Yeah, Insane Gamer. We have covered that before. I think you mentioned the Craig Hope quote, I think. Or at least he's put out a tweet saying he thinks he'll be fine. What's the shock result this game week? I guess Everton being Arsenal would be my one. Yeah, West Ham being Bournemouth might be a little bit of a shock, but Bournemouth have been pretty poor for a while now, actually. As you mentioned. Probably Ipswich against Wolves. Yeah, I mean, they're both kind of similar level, similar position in the table. I don't think it's a massive shock there. So my one is Everton to get a result against Arsenal, which hopefully I'm wrong about. Saka is benched. Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm not complaining as a non-Saka owner. And to be honest, even if he did start, I'm not that bullish on him anyway, facing Everton. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. But the lineup is out. I'm going to cover it now before I wrap up. Be sure to drop a like on this stream. And for those that are still here, there is a reward because there is the possibility to get a membership, which I'm going to do right now. So let us give this. And let's get to 150 likes. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you to those that have done so already. Let's get this show on the road. Let's see if I can gift these memberships now. So big up to Safer, to Ahmed, Aranya, to Lorientu, and Napstars. I think some of you have been gifted memberships before, but I have no say in who gets them. So big up to all of you and enjoy the early access to my videos amongst many other perks. And even when I go on holiday next week, the plan is still to record the key piece of content, especially for UCL Fantasy, and hopefully the internet is good enough for a live stream, but I cannot guarantee it, unfortunately. Well, we'll talk about that now. So let us go to X and let's bring up the Arsenal and Everton lineups. We'll start off with the home team. Okay, so a big return there for Everton, which I did highlight, of course, in the injury section. David Moyes said Ndai has been, back in training. He is in the lineup. So Pickford in goal, O'Brien, Tarkowski, Branthwaite, Patterson, Idrissa Gana Gueye, Iribonum, Doucouré, Harrison, Ndai, and Beto. So that is a massive boost there for Everton. And with these provisional lineups I'm seeing, with Saka, and Beto, yeah, I think my prediction of 1-0 Everton is more cemented, but hopefully I am wrong. So let's now bring up Arsenal. So, Raya in goal, White, Saliba, Kivior, Lewis Skelly, Jorginho, Marino, Rice, Wanyeri, Sterling, and Trossard. So, Saka is on the bench. Marino's in the midfield as well. That's worth mentioning. Trossard is the false 9, Wanyeri and Sterling on the wings. So, some key changes there for the Gunners. So, yeah, I think it makes sense. The likes of Partey, Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, Timber, all on the bench. The Champions League is the priority. So, yeah, I'll be honest, I don't really mind the lineup at all. And with Arsenal's injury luck this season, you don't want to risk it more than you need to. Hopefully Ben White can avoid any injuries and everyone else there. And I'd like to see, like I mentioned for the Champions League, having Ben White right back and then Timber alongside Saliba in central defence with Lewis Skelly on the left-hand side. I think Kivior can do a job, and he did it last season. Mainly as a left-back, of course, in the run-in. But he still has like that odd mistake in him, even when things are going well. And this season, I know he hasn't had much football, to be fair to him, but he just always commits a big mistake, in my opinion. So, yeah, you can't do that against Real Madrid. Let's put it that way. So those are the lineups. Idrissa Gana Gueye, well, no one cares about him. Ndai is back for Everton, and Bukayo Saka is benched. Those are the key pieces of news. Timber's benched as well, and we've had Ben White in the lineup. So things very interesting there. Marino in central midfield. Quite a lot to take away from those early lineups there from the Everton-Arsenal clash. So Going back to my squad. We'll see how it goes. If Arsenal keep a clean sheet, there might be a slight regret of mine not going for Saliba and starting him. But either way, I'll likely buy him for Gameweek 32 anyway. Leonardo says, I'm scared too. Cheers, Dylan. All the best to you. Yep, Mansari, that is true. Saka will probably come on in the second half as they're starting Sterling. Yeah, I think so, but it makes sense. Build up his fitness and don't rush him back just yet. Thank you, Leonardo. Thank you, Safair, as well. Waiseng says, I'm finished. What a start to the wildcard with Saka benching. Yeah, look, I've said this before. In terms of like saving a transfer, going for Saka on the wildcard makes a lot of sense. But the reason why I went for Palmer last week is because over the next three, I was backing him to outscore Saka. But then again, I said this and explained my thought process in the last stream, and Saka outscored Palmer by 2 points. So he can still outscore Palmer again. But yeah, I think that extra transfer is obviously a big part and obviously a big kind of pro in terms of going for Saka in the first place. I accidentally made loads of changes while selecting the wild card. I give up. Yeah, that is very frustrating, and you're not the first person to say that in a live chat over the years. So yeah, Timber also benched. I am cooked. Yeah, to be honest, when I was like saying, my thoughts on who I would bench between Gavardi or Timber, I still thought Timber would start, but yeah, of course now it's looking pretty terrible. Maybe he doesn't come on at all, which would be a blessing in disguise for you. A lot of rotation before the Madrid game. I'm absolutely fine with it. Saka scoring from the bench again. Don't worry, guys. I don't think he will. But even though I don't own Saka, I honestly would be very happy with that. Saka owners punching the air unless he scores from the bench, which he did last week, so don't rule it out. But I don't think he will. How's the birthday, lad? Yeah, all good, Waising. Still pretty much celebrating, and then holiday next week. So, yeah, just keep on celebrating, I guess. Take care, Dylan. Have a good weekend. I hope I haven't messed up my wildcard and triple captain bench boost team. I don't think you have. You can't look too much into the Saka benching, even with Jaren Timber, for example, but you didn't have him anyway. Thank you, Punjabi again. What a relief that White and Timber are in the squad for Arsenal. Yeah, it's still not great in, having Gabriel up for the season, but yeah, as long as those two can stay fit and Arsenal can have no more injuries, they've got a little bit of a chance, I guess. Who's on pens for Arsenal? When Saka's not on the pitch and not Odegaard as well, and no Havertz, difficult to say, but I think it'd be Trossard. He took the last penalty that I can remember from a non-Havertz, Saka, Odegaard perspective. Yeah, and Trossard missed it, by the way. But yeah, it's going to be him, I think. Saka can come on if he scores, or he can stay benched. Well, yeah, but we don't always get what we want. Hope Saka gets at least 20 minutes needed to ensure that he gets that match fitness. But injury scare could happen. Don't want that. Yeah, but I mean, with Gabriel, for example, I've seen people blame Arteta, and whilst he could have managed certain situations and players better, including Gabriel this season, I think him getting injured against Fulham was also quite unfortunate because over the international break, he didn't even play against Argentina. He was suspended. So it's not like he had like a 2-3 day kind of turnaround. He had a week pretty much, and he still got injured. Dylan, is that the weakest lineup Arsenal have put in the past 2-3 seasons? Well, there is a debate for sure. It would be up there, but I don't know, because if you say 3 years ago, you're also looking at 2022 when they were competing for the Champions League. And yeah, they had Cedric, for example, starting. So my answer would be no from that perspective. Where's Ranieri going to play with Sterling, Trossard? Yeah, I just covered that. So Marino midfield with Jorginho and... Yeah, Jorginho and Rice. And then Ranieri on the right, Trossard up front and Sterling on the left. I did mention that when I read out the lineup earlier. Saka will come on at halftime if they're losing. Maybe, but once again, I mean, I want to win every game, but the Premier League is not that important at the moment. It's just about securing top 4. So frustrating that getting the average this game week, I go down like 200k while being 1.4 million, difficult to rank up. Yeah, I think a lot of people have a similar setup, so the template is very strong, which doesn't make it any easier. I had to do Frank AM, Solanke captain and Son in for a -4. I wish you the best there, and I don't want to discourage you, but in my opinion, I think Solanke and Son will be benched. But hopefully for your sake, they start and do the business. Dylan, remember the Son hat-trick off the bench against Leicester, I believe? Oh yeah, that was a couple of years ago now, right? Did I own him for that? I'm not sure if I did. I need to remember or go back to it. Welcome, Barbary. Good to see you. No worry. Next season, guys, need to rethink plan for 2 months since the fixtures are out early. Well, yeah, but they always are out, right? Unless there's like a Euros, maybe we see them out a little bit later, but FPL tends to be released quite early as well. I don't want to think about it too much during the summer in terms of like tinkering with my team and stuff, but content will be out regardless, but of course it'll be spaced out. Saka will come on for sure. He'll want to give him some minutes before Real. Yeah, for anyone who's kind of hoping Saka doesn't feature at all, I'd be very surprised if that was the case. Saka's scoring is very doubtful as Mykolenko pocketed Saka in the 0-0 reverse fixture. Well, I mean, Everton just played a very defensive shape, and they kind of limited Arsenal to virtually no chances. Yeah, Mykolenko was okay in that game. I don't think he was that good, to be honest. Who's the best replacement for Gabriel? Saliba, for those that don't have him, but you might be less keen on that Arsenal defensive double-up. With White and Timber in the squad, though, I'm a little bit more optimistic now than I would have been, you know, before seeing the lineup. No Mykolenko. Yeah, no Mykolenko, that is true. But, I mean, what? Who's missing for them? Lindstrom and Mykolenko, they've got Ndai back. It's still a great opportunity for Everton to win, in my opinion, so I'm sticking with my 1-0 prediction for now. Yeah, Vishal, I don't know what you're saying, because Saka's bench, mate. Yeah. Where Kevin De Bruyne going to? Well, Saudi Arabia or America is the most likely, actually. I don't think he'll go to Wolfsburg, despite what they tweeted. Saka should play 25 at least. Yeah, I think so. And I said the same thing for the Fulham match. What's your team of the season, Dylan? Premier League? So in goal is between Raya and Sells, I think. Very close to kind of distinguish between them. Oof. I'd go for Raya, but maybe you'll disagree, and I get that. Raya in goal. I would go for Aina at right back. Robinson on the left. Gabriel and Milenkovic. The thing is, Van Dijk also has a great shout of being there, right? But yeah, difficult one to say. But I think Forest deserve at least 1 or 2 like coverage in that defense, including the goalkeeper. I'll probably stick with that for now. In the midfield, I'd go for McAllister. Yeah, the midfield's a bit awkward, I'm not going to lie. I think Gravenberch and Caicedo started very well, but they have dipped in recent months, which has kind of let them down. So yeah, I'm less confident about the midfield, to be honest. With the attackers, though, yeah, Salah is obviously a lock. Like, he could blank for the rest of the season. He's still going to be in there. Isak up front for me. Yeah, difficult. I mean, I was looking at Cunha as well on the left, but yeah, I'm not too sure about that. Yeah, Chris Wood. I'd go for something like Isak, and he can play on the left, right? So you can have Isak, Chris Wood, and Salah as your front three. Midfield, I'd go for McAllister. I think he's kind of underrated. He's not getting enough shouts there for that team of the season. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of difficult, I think, with that. You might still go for Caicedo there, to be fair, but I just think he has dropped off in the last couple of months. He played quite well, though, against Spurs, but still. But yeah, I'm imagining, without even reading the chat yet, that a lot of you would say Van Dijk has to be in there. But I think, yeah, Gabriel, Milenkovic, Van Dijk, those have been the 3 best centre-backs this season in the Premier League. Let's see. Bruno Fernandes, for example, I think like he's done really well recently, but not at the beginning of the season. Not for me. So I need to think about that. I think Isak's injury might worsen, so I thought how AM and move to Arteta Gameweek 33 was better for points than holding Isak and going for just Arteta. Yeah, I don't think it's a major injury, and Eddie Howe did say that, that it's not serious issues, just niggles. But Of course, enough for Isak to be subbed off and to be a doubt. I'm predicting 1-1 at Goodison. I hope for a win, but yeah, I'd be surprised if Arsenal were able to do that. Strand Larsen hat-trick incoming. I think he'll score a goal, but not a hat-trick. Do you think Everton will be a bit more adventurous versus this Arsenal lineup? Nah. I mean, the thing is with Everton under Moyes, they have been more offensive than they were under Sean Dyche, to be fair. But I think most teams just know how to play against Arsenal. You sit back, you stifle them, you limit their creativity, and you hit them on the break. Yeah, like I mentioned before, it's between Raya and Sells. In the Premier League only, I mean, it's just difficult to judge, I think. But those two are the standouts by far. Yeah, I imagine people would say Caicedo and Gravenberch, like I just mentioned. I just think they have kind of fallen off. But yeah, they are probably better than the alternatives, right? That's pretty much what it comes down to. It's just an uninspiring best 11, if I'm being honest. But that's just my opinion. De Bruyne is the most likely to head it to MLS. There were rumours all season long. Yeah. With Saka back in the lineup, even off the bench, that's good for in-swing and set pieces. I agree, but there's no Gabriel to head them in. Hopefully someone else steps up. And ultimately, Arsenal need to find ways beyond set pieces to break down teams and have that creativity. I think Sterling stinks it up and gets close to 45 minutes, in my opinion. I think he won't be subbed up for half-time, although that is a possibility. I think we'll see him come off around 50, 60 minutes instead. Juniper says, missed the deadline. You're not the only one. Earned a free transfer. Looking at the positives, I rolled anyway. Kevin De Bruyne, biggest highlight in EPL and FPL. That assist against Stoke City does stand out to me. Yeah, I mean, there's probably too many to really think about. But I actually didn't own him too much in FPL, and I'm not going to buy him this season unless something crazy happens. Yeah, good luck, Juniper. I do not do any of that, so all the best. I wouldn't be able to tell you anything. I swapped my captain from Isak to Salah around the deadline, so I don't know who I captained. Well, if it did say saved, well, maybe, yeah, I'm not sure if you were able to see that, but yeah, it probably did go through. Murillo and Gabriel deserve a shout. Yeah, Murillo's another one who deserves a shout, I agree. The two Forest centre-backs, Gabriel and Van Dijk, are the four best for me. Slept in, missed the deadline, team was okay, was going to captain Isak instead of Salah though. No doubt Isak will score a hat-trick. Well, he plays on Monday, so you don't need to worry about that until the end of the week. Mbumo carried, says Subnika. Yeah, that few minutes of Mbumo and Evanescence scoring kind of was a bit annoying because it basically meant my non-wildcard team outscored what I ended up going with. But yeah, Mbumo's a shout in terms of like the FPL or the Premier League team of the season. No, Saka doesn't start, Edward. We covered that. We covered all the lineups a few minutes ago. True Mbumo makes the team of the season for sure. Yeah, I just think he's kind of underrated. He can play anywhere across that front three as well. KDB getting last minutes was a reason I sold Foden for Son. Fair enough, but could Son be benched against Southampton? That's the only caveat. I don't want to piss on your cornflakes, as they say. Thank you, Aranya. Thanks for the membership again. My third time being gifted a membership. Well, it's well deserved, and all your contributions to the channel are massively appreciated, and it's good that YouTube recognizes it. Who will be the 4 to qualify for UCL? Well, 5. Fifth spot will get Champions League qualification. 2. Yeah, Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest, Man City, and I'd say Chelsea. But they do have a tough end to the season. Your team of the season, if you went with 3-4-3? Oof. 3-4-3. So yeah, Raya, Gabriel, Van Dijk, and Milenkovic. I don't think I'd go for wing-backs, though. I'd just go for, like, attacking players and just go all out, I guess. I mean, is that even a thing? In midfield, I'd go for McAllister and Caicedo. I don't like that midfield, to be honest. I'm just being completely transparent. I don't think there's, like, been clear standouts. Like, last season, we knew Rodri, Odegaard, Rice. Like, that was a good midfield throughout the entire season. Here, not really. You don't have that. But yeah, up front, yeah, could I even cheat a bit and say Salah, Isak, and Chris Wood, and then go for Mbumo as like a less advanced winger? Yeah, maybe I could. Maybe I could. Then I'm kind of struggling for the last player. I think Saka would have definitely been in there, but yeah, the injury has kind of like ruled him out of the equation. Palmer, of course, has fallen off a cliff recently as well. Maybe I'll stick with Robinson as a left wing back and then go for Mbeumo right wing back, but I'm not a big fan there. I'd definitely go for a back four with a team of the season. Baleba, an underrated shout for the team of the season. Yeah, he's been good. It's just, once again, I don't think there are any standouts. There's just a lot of like different players competing in that midfield. If you had Konate, Diaz, Munoz and Byrne, who would you have benched? Yeah, it would have been Ruben Diaz. With Gavardio, slightly different because of the attacking threat. But here, it would have been Diaz. Someone in my mini league said they might have captained Saka this week. Wonder if they did. Well, why would he lie? You're going to find out in a couple of minutes anyway, if you check his team. I activated my AM to Thomas Frank. It's interesting to see so many different like variations of the assistant manager, which is one thing I like about the chip. People going for Potter, Thomas Frank, Glasner, Eddie Howe, Arteta. Best underrated transfer this season, especially EPL. Oof, I need to think about that, mate. Difficult one to say. Yeah, difficult. Enzo, best value player of the season. The Argentinian boy is doing so well in FPL. He might be up there in the midfield, but definitely nowhere near the team of the season for me. Yeah, I think there are better options elsewhere. Hi, Dylan. I captained Salah instead of Isak. What should I expect? Well, it's Salah, right? I mean, I wouldn't be too nervous, but I just think Isak has the highest ceiling, and maybe a blessing in disguise comes your way and Isak doesn't start. Maybe. Why is it 5, says Barath? Not sure what you're on about there. Wish I had gone Sells. He was in my wildcard 5 before last week and a few others. Been neglecting out again. Yeah, selling Sells stung a little bit for me. I went for Raya in the end, but there you go. I went for Savia over Sarr. Tricky decision. Yeah, there's not much in it, but I do prefer Sarr. Fairs, I was still struggling with left mid as well. Yeah, I don't like it. You just go for a wing back, I guess, or you kind of put someone out of position like Palmer, but not a big fan. We have the exact same team, but Burn over Livramento. Yeah, which kind of sums up FPL at the moment. A little bit boring, but hopefully we can still gain those rank rises. Newcastle differential, Harvey Barnes. I don't like him long term, though. Hopefully we eat good this week. Hopefully, but it's not a guarantee. Let's put it that way. Another value player, by the way, for Fantasy Premier League, maybe Chris Wood. He started this season at 6 million, let's not forget. So he's not a bad shout. But that does conclude... Yeah, Rania, yeah. We did cover the Arsenal lineup already. Saka is benched, yeah. Tottenham differential, Brennan Johnson. I mean, if we're talking about major differential, you're perhaps looking at Tell or Odeber. But we just don't know who's going to start. And I don't recommend Spurs players long term. I think Arsenal have lined up for a draw or a late win. Well, the team is still good enough to win, but yeah, there are some weaknesses in there, like Raheem Sterling and stuff like that. But even with Arsenal's strongest 11, as in from those available, I still think Everton have a good chance of winning. Barra says for UCO, I mean. Why is it 5? Are you on about 5 free transfers? It's always been like that, mate. You get 5 free transfers for the first leg of each round of the competition. So quarterfinals, semi-finals and final. And free transfers for the second leg. I slept in, forgot about the deadline, and I played my wild card. Can't remember who's in it and who's captain. Amazing achievement. Wow, that's something I haven't really heard about before. True, hard to go against Chris Wood this season. Yeah, and also I picked him in Gameweek 1, so I've got a natural bias towards him, but yeah, I think he's probably the best one. Easy says my team of the season in formation: Sells, Robinson, Murillo, Gabriel, Aina, Gravenberch, Palmer, Cunha, Salah, Wood, Isak, manager Nuno. That's a good list. I don't really disagree with too much there. With Cole Palmer, though, yeah, and even with Gravenberch, I just think they've fallen off a cliff recently. And that's a very offensive team, by the way. You've basically gone 4-2-4, but with the lack of midfielders, I'd say, I don't really blame you. Dylan, which team do you support? Arsenal. Is it confirmed if Sterling is leaving in the summer? He's not going to stay. It's a loan until the end of the season. They're not renewing it. It did go in. Salah is now my captain, says Music Kiwi. You're all the best. Last minute decision, bench Gavardio, Savio for Concert Sar. Wow. Not too sure about that one, but maybe it'll pay off for you. Tarkovsky will get a red. He's never been sent off in his career, and he should have been against Liverpool. Sterling wouldn't look out of place if he played ball in the park at the moment. He played very well, to be fair, against PSV in that dead rubber game, but he then got booked, and that meant a suspension against Real Madrid in the Champions League, so that kind of sums up his Arsenal career. I meant qualification for Champions League top 5. Yeah. Oh, sorry, it's just that was a while ago that you mentioned that original comment. I mean, why is it 5? It's based on coefficients, and not England have the highest of any country. It's also based on performances in the Champions League and Europa League this season and all of that. It builds up. So yeah, it's no surprise, but 5th place will get Champions League spot next season, although it will be like a playoff place. Who to sell and buy in the Arsenal squad next season? I can't really... Okay, that's not an FPL question. I think it's quite self-explanatory, right? Arsenal need a striker. They need a winger, maybe another attacker on top of it, a number 10, a defender, especially if they sell the likes of Kivior, Zinchenko. I'd say Gabriel Jesus, but he's injured, so they're not going to sell him. Thomas Partey and Jorginho will go. Zubamendi comes in. Isak. Yeah, a lot of this has been covered already. I joined FPL this season and missed some general guides and tips on the game. Would you find interesting doing a video on that for new players? I have thought about that before, yes. It's just like, I don't think the interest is generally there. And a lot of the kind of points I raise in that kind of specific type of video are already covered in my other podcasts. But yeah, maybe one day if people want to see it. But yeah, I just don't think there really is that much interest in that. Shouldn't Tonali or Bruno Guimaraes make the team of the season? Well, Tonali obviously missed the first couple of months, and he has been solid ever since. They are good shouts, and I think they're quality midfielders overall. But once again, I don't think they stand out necessarily. But yeah, maybe they've been more consistent than the others that have been mentioned. Gyökeres was talked about. He has, but I'm not really that bothered about transfer talk until they sign on the dotted line and they hold up the shirt. Come on, Dylan, be realistic. Top 5 teams qualifying for UCL besides Liverpool and Arsenal. I think Forest will qualify. I said it already. I don't know what you're talking about. I said Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest, City and Chelsea, but I'm less convinced about Chelsea, of course. One dream signing for Arsenal this summer? Isak. But it's probably not going to happen. So yeah, that covers it all. This has been an extensive deadline stream. So thank you to those that have tuned in. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new. I have gifted 10 memberships as well in this live stream to kind of give thanks to the community as well. Be sure to drop a like as well, and also hit the notification bell. Check all the links in the description below, like my X, Instagram and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, and also my Patreon and the championships for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, FPL League, FPL Challenge and Spotify can be found in the description. And keep your eyes peeled for UCL fantasy content. It is going to be a hectic turnaround for me, and yeah, the next week is going to be kind of very, very chaotic to say the least, but I'll try to get all the content I can for you for both FPL and UCL Fantasy, and there will be a live stream on Tuesday for UCL Fantasy for sure. Afterwards though, yeah, it all depends on if I have an internet connection that actually works, because I am going on holiday next week, and if it does work, then expect to see more UCL Fantasy and FPL videos despite all of those kind of circumstances. And there might be a reaction stream tonight. I'll keep you posted on it. But if not, all focus will be on UCL Fantasy, recording those videos in time for the Tuesday deadline. And I hope to have you on board for that as usual. Good to see you, Twisted Parky and Bolg the Villain. I think Saliba or Gabriel last season with Arsenal, says Barbary Corsair. What is this in relation to? Cheers, Dylan. Great stream. Thank you, Safir. Thoughts on Arsenal versus Real Madrid UCL tie? Yeah, I think your question is quite easy to answer. Real Madrid obviously have the better chance to go through, especially with the injuries Arsenal have. And then you look at Madrid's pedigree in the competition, their experience of winning at this stage of the competition. Yeah, it's going to be Real Madrid. Still also Tottenham to make the Champions League if they win the Europa. Nah, they're not winning the Europa League. Thoughts on refs admitting they often compensated a mistake by favouring the team who's hard done by. That's something that I'm kind of used to. I'm not surprised by it, so I have no reaction. I'm being genuinely honest. I've seen that kind of comment made multiple times by referees in the past, and their actions kind of speak volumes. Thanks as well, Sonika. I appreciate it. Easy says 6 Premier League team in UCL next season if Spurs United win Europa League. United is more likely, and look, never say never. Spurs have a chance, but it's a very slim probability. Thank you, Music Kiwi. Good luck. Thank you, Safir. Yeah, Easter is around the corner. Usually my birthday is actually in the middle of Easter, but it wasn't this time round, which is quite surprising. Thanks as well, Punjabi. Rooting for an Arsenal win. So am I. But if they do keep a clean sheet, there might be a slight regret about not buying Sleeper a little bit earlier and, you know, kind of navigating the price changes overnight. But yeah, ultimately, I just want Arsenal to win. Let the man go. He's got a pack for his holiday. Well, the thing is, there's still a way to go. It is next week. It's like, what, 4 or 5 days now that I'm traveling. But yeah, it's going to be hectic regardless with all the UCL Fantasy and FPL deadlines. And the plan is to get everything you need for both fantasy formats. Take care, enjoy the football. I'll see you very soon for those FPL and UCL Fantasy videos on live streams. Keep your eyes peeled for a reaction stream potentially tonight, but if not, the UCL Fantasy videos are headed your way and another deadline stream on Tuesday. I'll see you then.